It is that time again.
The force is with us.
The force is with us. Episode 8. Can you believe it? It's here. It is the last summer reading program where we actually have a specific book to talk about. Of
Mhm.
course, next weekend, please tune back in for our great pizza party. We're going to have a Scholastic book fair. It's going to be a whole situation. Tons of nostalgia. I went to my parents' house yesterday. I got stuff out of their attic. Okay.
I'm so
It's going to
excited
be
about
great.
that.
I want to show you stuff so bad right now, but I'm like, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait.
That's how I felt all summer as I've been, like, finding things for that last episode. I'm like, "Ooh, I wanna tell Kristen about it," and I'm like, "No, you you wanna save it for that last week." But I can't believe it's
Absolutely.
here either. We made this long list, and it honestly went by in a blink, and I have to say this is part of it. I shared in the announcement video, I don't love summer. There's a lot of things I don't like about summer. And I said, I hope this helps get me through. And it has. It's been great to do this with you. And it's also been great to connect with people in the chat and in the comments later. It's really been a highlight of my summer for sure. So
Oh, I love
wild
that.
it's
Me
here.
too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And of course, today we are talking about Lost Stars, Star Wars Lost Stars, and Attack of the Clones, Episode 2, the novelization of the brilliant movie that everyone loves.
I heard it's the most popular Star Wars movie.
I think it is. People love that romance.
Yeah, people are, like, in on the internet waging war, gatekeeping. They're like, "Attack of the
Yeah,
Clones is the best. Don't come
that's
for
right.
us, or we'll send our army of clones."
Yep, that's exactly it. And of course, we have great people in the
Ugh,
chat. Hello, James.
he found the lost star. Hey,
Yeah,
James.
he found it. Hello, Chris, the lovely Chris. Hello,
Oh,
Freddie. Hey, it's great and powerful. Just Jessica. He's always
aw, thanks,
complimenting
Freddie.
people I talk to, but not me. It's fine.
I know, but did listen, we were all there when
I
Freddie
know it
shared.
happened.
It's because he showers you with gifts.
Freddie, you're lovely. I
No,
appreciate it.
I'll take Freddie's words. Yeah, they're not empty to me. No.
Oh, Mary calling us nerds. It's fair.
Ah,
Hello, Mary.
Mary.
Who's today's sponsor? Elon, thank you for asking. And hello, the lovely Reed is here.
Oh my gosh. That's one of my favorite authors. I can't believe
Oh,
the chat watching
he's
us.
in the chat. Do you think it's actually him, or is it like that time when
Gail
Gail
Simone.
Simone popped in? We were like, it's not her, and then it was.
I think about that a lot, and I didn't know you personally or Maddie. I don't think it was shortly after that actually that Maddie and I connected. And I think about it all the time because I followed it from afar, like, "This is wild, and is this real? Is it not real?" And
Yeah.
then later that night, I did see her tweet, and I was like, "What?"
It
And I was,
was
like, excited
crazy.
and embarrassed for everyone, like I was
Yeah,
there myself.
absolutely. Good times. Yeah, our sponsor today is we're sponsored by two things today.
Mm,
We are not sponsored by Star Wars nostalgia, okay, and Star Wars novel recommendations from the great Just Jessica. So we're going to talk
listen.
about how we got into Star Wars. We're going to
Mm,
talk a little bit about that. I maybe got some stuff from the attic that I want to share, and then you have a whole slideshow of great recommendations.
yeah, call us creative and on theme, not lazy. Don't do that.
Listen,
You did drive to a whole other state to get
I
props.
really did.
So, people better appreciate this nostalgic trip.
Yeah, and shout out to my mom. She dug through the attic to try to find some stuff for me.
I know, that's great. What was
It's
it? Your
great.
mom was trying to find something the other week. It was like a Mary-Kate and Ashley videotape maybe, and I don't think she ever did. I'm trying to remember. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Do you want me to tell you?
No, no, don't, because it might be related to night. Don't do it, don't spoil.
It is related.
Okay, okay.
Was it found? Yes, it was.
Perfect. Yes.
Mm,
We're
yeah.
sponsored by Star Wars. We want that Disney money. Feel free to throw it our way. Feel free. It's not
If
like you got
only.
problems with any kind of
Yeah.
strike going on. Yeah, whatever.
No,
You got
absolutely
stuff to
not.
spare and you could stop the strike anytime, and we all know it. But
Mm-hmm.
if you stumbled on this video because you searched for Lost Stars or you're a huge Attack of the Clones fan, welcome. This is a safe space. We don't judge anyone for their Star Wars opinions here.
Yep.
But don't worry that if you haven't gotten a chance to read either of them, we'll do a non-spoilery thoughts, and then we'll let you know when spoilers come.
Yep. And I think you want me to start with the Star Wars nostalgia, right?
That's what the people want. Do you
Let's
hear
do
the
it.
people sing?
I hear it. Well, real quick though, I want to know your Star Wars journey. If you want to just, recap that, like
Oh,
when you got into it, what you watched first.
Well, the reason I don't have Star Wars nostalgia to share is I didn't grow up with Star Wars. My neither of my parents are big into science fiction or fantasy. My dad has, I mean, I shared he watched The Walking Dead. That's kind of horror science fiction, I guess. I'm not really sure what genre to place that in, but neither of them exposed me to it growing up. I think the first time I was ever aware of Star Wars was when the prequel movies were coming out because all the kids at school were very hype about it, but I had no clue. And so one day I was just walking through my school library and in the new releases I saw, in fact, this book. This is the first piece of Star Wars media I ever consumed.
Nice.
And one could say, no major spoilers for my thoughts. It could only really go up from there. It was, I, but no, I saw this and I was like, look at these two beautiful humans on the cover. And I was like, Star Wars, that's what everyone's getting into. And I read this over the course of a weekend. I'll share more later. But after that, it was a while. It was not until college that I watched the original trilogy. I don't even think I watched the prequel movies in college. I think it'd be a couple more years. But when I became a bit more of a completist and way more immersed is about 2 years before The Force Awakens because I was like, okay, there's a lot more synergy. Things were getting in reprint, things were streaming, and that's actually when I got into it. So I was very late to the game. That doesn't make me less of a fan. You could become a fan today and you'd be on equal footing as a fellow fan. But yeah, my first exposure to Star Wars was not the movie, but this very
Wow.
novelization.
That's amazing.
Amazing is a word people could use to describe it.
I mean, Elon's saying, what a place to start. Cannot believe you carried on.
I'm going to share a little more about because I definitely have not read this book since then. And well, I'll just say it's not really a spoiler to say I was like, how did I even follow this plot? Like,
I was going to say, like,
I don't know. It was something that was very engrossing to me right away. But I will say, once I watched that 2 years before The Force Awakens, of course, I went ham on the movies, but also I started reading a lot more of the books. So that's why I'm going to kind of talk about some of the books later on. But what about you? How did you get into Star Wars? And do you have any relics of the past, a time long, long ago?
I have a bit. I know there's more probably in that attic than I have
Mm,
here, but I didn't want my mom to go digging too far, you know. But
mm.
I loved Star Wars as a kid. I would watch. I don't even know that it was a legit VHS tape. Like I think it was recorded from TV that we had,
Oh, yeah.
and I would watch it every night. Just every night, I would
Hmm.
watch them and watch them. My favorite was always the third original movie.
Mm.
Um,
That's
and
one of my favorites. We talked about
yeah,
this. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, not everybody's favorite is Empire, but it's never mine. I mean,
No,
I
it's
like
Attack of
it.
the Clones. Everyone's favorite.
That's right. That's right.
Thought we
Sorry, sorry.
established that.
Well, this was before then, of course. But yeah, I would watch. I would watch. I mean, not maybe not every night, but a lot. I would rewatch it. I loved it so much. I loved the
Mm,
whole trilogy. My parents, of course, had the tape, so like they were fans too. Specifically, probably my dad, like majorly. And I loved Han and Leia. I loved Han and
mm.
Leia. That was my jam. So of course, this is
Yes.
a chapter book that I loved. I have not reread since. I really want to, and it looks ridiculous. There's like illustrations
Oh,
in it.
illustrations.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, look at Jabba here. So it's called Zorba the Hutt's Revenge, and I just remember it being like a love story of them ultimately, right?
Wow.
There's other stuff happening, but I definitely want to reread this at some point. Maybe if
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean it's short, maybe I should read it before the next show and do a little review, but the back, the big draw of the back at the top here is Han Solo is thinking of getting married. Um, the some person that I can't pronounce the name of has found his queen, but the father of Jabba the Hutt is about to shatter their plans.
Oh,
But he's thinking of getting married.
the drama,
So,
the intrigue, the
the
romance, the
drama.
adventure. Who's the author?
It is Paul Davids and Hollis Davids.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know.
I just wanted to see what else they
Little
wrote.
chapter book. Little chapter book. Yeah. Where did they go? What are they doing now? So have those. My other little chapter books here are the novelizations, but the junior ones for
Oh,
episode
cool.
1 and episode 2. These are the smaller ones that have like the photos inside,
Oh,
you know?
that was such a mood when they would do that.
Yeah. So the photos from the movies inside, which I love. These are my originals from back then. So of course, when episode 1 came out, again,
Mhm.
you guys, one of the most beloved movies on the internet. When Phantom Menace came
Yeah, I heard
out,
that kid had a great time. Super great
great time.
reception, lived his
Yeah,
best life.
Jar Jar Binks didn't at all have a problem
No,
with the
people
internet or
were
people.
respectful
Yeah, they really
and
loved him.
kind and recognized how to separate a character from an actor
Mm-hmm,
in our multiverse of madness.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I was obsessed with the Phantom Menace, so much so that when I was digging around, I did find several movie stubs because I saw it multiple times in the theater.
Oh, I love that for
I
you.
I believe I went to Indy to see it for some reason. I think the 3D version was maybe in Indy, but not near us. So we went there. I saw it several times at my theater. Like I was a kid. I loved it. I
Yeah,
remember Taco Bell had a big Star Wars episode
I
1
do remember
promotion.
this.
You remember
Mhm.
that? So we would like go to Taco Bell so I could get the toy from Star Wars because they had like different ones and I loved it so much. So the weird things you remember, right? I remember oh, I should have brought this is in my dad's comic room, but they
Oh,
came out with a cereal specifically during Attack of the Clones that I
mm,
loved. I wish was still around. It had like little Star Wars marshmallows in it and then
mhm.
like little circle puffs and I
Oh,
loved it. We would get it all the time. My dad has a sealed box still with
nice.
like them on the cover and stuff. So I think that's in his room. I should have grabbed that.
Mm,
I didn't think about it, but loved that. But yeah, I kind of grew up with these movies around the
yeah.
similar age, right? Jake Lloyd, of course, who was Anakin, I had a crush on. Probably also,
Really?
well, and probably also Natalie Portman, but didn't understand it. You know what I mean? So,
I do, in fact, know what you mean. It's
so I
probably
had
why
like
I picked this book. I was like, wow, these people look so interesting.
both of them are pretty.
Yeah.
I had posters on my wall. Like it was
Yeah.
a whole thing because I was around his age when I would see
Well,
this, right?
Kristen, every kid is nuts about trade politics. It's like a
Listen,
commonly known thing.
they go
Kids
wild.
go wild over it.
So then, of course, I'm a teenager when in episode 2, Attack of
Oh.
the Clones comes out, and I loved Hayden Christensen.
Oh, you
Loved.
mean star of Canadian teen drama Higher Ground?
Absolutely. Found Higher Ground just to watch it. Found all of his stuff, Life as a House. I loved him in.
Oh, you were really going through it as a youth.
I went through his catalog.
I love that.
Shattered Glass.
Oh, I
Do you
don't
remember
know
that
that
one?
one. No,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
look
yeah.
it up.
It was actually great. I mean, what I remember.
Also,
Definitely.
shout out Paul and Hollis Davids. They wrote multiple of those chapters Star Wars books. So if you love that one,
Okay.
you can go nuts with their back catalog.
We love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a teenager, obsessed with Hayden, loved him. I still know his middle name, you guys. Come on. Should I tell the world? I mean, you could Google it, but it's Sterling Hayden Sterling Christensen. Isn't that weird?
Wow. His parents
Yeah.
were pretentious, a
Yes.
little
I
pretentious.
mean, a little bit, a little bit,
Maybe
a
it's
little
a
bit.
family name. Maybe it's a family name.
Yeah, it could be, it could be. So, two things I did find that my mom
Mm.
found actually were these little galactic heroes.
Oh my god, they're really cute.
Yeah, so these little cute Han and Leia, and then it's funny. This one's sealed, but like Padme fell out of it somehow. But Padme and
Oh,
Anakin,
you know
little
what? I
this
bet.
girl.
Listen, I bet I know what happened.
Oh, sad. She's got a big old gun. I love
Sad.
her.
Her gun is bigger than her body. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it's awesome. My mom
Wow.
also found this puzzle that I had
Oh, that's cool. How many pieces is that?
in a nice tin. 500.
Okay, that's respectable.
Yeah, so I open it up, you know, it's funny though. Like everything's like apart except somehow Padme survived.
Huh. It's like you were trying to
Interesting.
preserve it for some reason.
It's very strange. So that's a cute little tin I have. Now I can't close it. Cool.
That
cool.
is a cool
Love that.
tin, though.
Yeah, it is nice. So there's that, and then the last thing I have here, and again, I know I had more, but like the last
Yeah.
thing I have, of course, I had to get the Star Wars Attack of the Clones Hayden tin.
It's just a 10.
It's a tin, but you know what I put in it?
Wow. Okay. No, I
It's a
don't.
tin. Well, I'll
Love
show you.
notes?
Well, there's a weird notebook that I had, and my mom was like, "You remember you carried around that around all the time?" I was like, "No," and I just
What?
put these like weird stickers all over it. There's like
Oh, those are
some,
stickers. Okay.
yeah, there's like stickers all over it. There's stickers on the back. I for
What's
some
in it?
reason an Indiana State Police sticker, so I could be like, no, I
You're
don't
being
know.
so vulnerable with the internet right now, and we all appreciate it. No one's gonna make fun of you for
Listen,
that. This is a
and
safe place.
what's funny is there's some paper like torn out of this, but
Mm.
the one page that's still on here that has a really old handwriting of mine, like I was clearly young, is special words and phrases. And then there's a list of things, phrases that I liked.
Let's go.
I'm not sure that I should share them all, but I don't remember some of them, which is hilarious. Like the story of Santa Claus Man. What's that mean?
The story of Santa Claus Man.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I don't know either. This one's oink oink hillbilly voice in parentheses. I heard a piggy. What's that from? Okay, so there's just some weird kid stuff in here that I don't understand anymore.
This is what I want you to do. I want you to keep that by your nightstand and read the list verbally out loud before bed, and then tell me what kind of dreams you have.
Okay, love that. Love
Because
that.
I bet it'll like inception to your childhood and you'll remember it all.
Yeah, yeah. I have an
Wow.
old graduation invitation from the class of 2000.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
All right.
so that's in here.
What was that
I
for you? Middle school? What did you graduate?
that would have to be elementary school, I think.
Elementary?
I think.
Wow. Well, I am a couple years older than you, so that tracks.
I think that's right. And then yeah, that is right because I know the person who like the her name's still in here, and she was
Oh,
my yeah, she was in elementary school. So yeah. And then I have a Florida postcard that somebody sent me. I read the back of this and I was like, I literally don't know who this is. And I asked my mom, and she was like, I don't know who that is. So that's good. I also think I think this came with the tin, but it's in this weird envelope, and I was like, I'm
oh,
scared to open this. And it's just a big shiny card of
oh! You gotta
Hayden.
put Kristen. You gotta display this.
I mean, it's it's pretty dope.
You need that in
Holographic.
your like background all the time.
What's so funny is, this probably just came in the tin, and then I asked my mom for like a bank envelope or something. Like this looks like a you put a check in it and take it to the bank.
Okay, well, that or do you remember? It's not quite what it was, but do you remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about those bubblegum machines that sometimes had like
Mm,
candy would come out or the little plastic
the
circular things
best.
that had like
Yeah.
rings in them, right? There were the sticker ones, and when they would do it, it would
Mm,
be in a white
mm,
cardboard sealed. That's kind of what
yeah.
I thought was about to happen, but it wasn't an envelope like that. So,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
wow.
Um, actually, in here, there's some other random. Do we care about this still, or are we just
Yeah, they're loving
okay?
it in the chat.
Okay. I have a ticket stub from the BB King Blues Festival
Oh,
from
that's
September
cool.
4th, 1999. So that's
Kristen, you're
here.
so cultured.
Well, my dad loved blues, so he would take me to the BB King Blues festivals.
Nice.
Um, and then of course, May 14th, 1999, Star Wars. So I'm sure that was Phantom Menace. So I have a ticket stub from them.
Nice.
A ticket stub from this is Phantom, so it's the same deal. I think this was the one we went to in Indy, June 8th, 1999. So that's in here. Um, and everything else is trading cards from Attack of the Clones. So
Wow.
yeah, there's like these weird long ones, which I guess that Hayden one probably came from.
Oh.
Okay.
They're like stills of the movie.
Yeah, I guess so. And then like on the back, I think there's like maybe behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, because here's a Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman clown around on the episode 2 set.
Oh my god.
So that's interesting.
Cool, 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 cool.
Yeah. And then the rest are like these weird trading cards from the movie. So when I say I was obsessed with this
Dang.
movie, I was obsessed with this movie. And yeah,
I
that's what the rest in here is like just I think I saw Mary say, how much is in that? I don't know, like tons of cards, mostly. And then
I'm
random
so
other
happy you
stuff.
shared it.
So that's my little tin. And that's really it. But yeah, I had a
Wow.
problem.
That was amazing. Do
Yeah.
you care to tell the internet? You don't have to share all your thoughts, but where you loved Attack of the Clones then, where does it fall as a movie? No spoilers for your thoughts on the book yet.
Mm.
As a movie like present day. You can even do
Oh.
like top percent. You don't have to like reveal everything. I'm just curious.
That's hard. I think just because of nostalgia, it would still be
Yeah.
up there for me. Like I can't
Wow.
take that
Okay.
away. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
yeah, that's fine. That's totally makes sense to me. Wow.
I can't say I've watched it in a while though, you know.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
memories hold up better, I'm sure, than the actual thing.
Well, I feel honored that we read this together then. Now that
I
I
mean,
like knew it a little bit, but now I really know.
yeah, it's a lot.
Oh.
It's a lot. I missed everything in the chat, so let's
Yes.
see. Reed's account is actually a Gil Simone troll account. That makes sense. Makes sense.
Yep.
So that okay. More so if you're brave to venture now when there's 12 movies and 8 canon shows. I mean, that's true.
So true. It's a lot to get into for new people now.
We should have had the Canteen band playing in the background.
Cantina entry music.
Yeah, yeah.
And now a live performance by not Reed Chancellor, but Gail Simone.
How great would it be?
It would be so funny.
Uh, also, hello, welcome to the chat.
Yes,
For
welcome
me,
others who've joined.
yeah, for me it was first Lego Star Wars, then Force Awakens, and just carry
Oh.
on for me. Okay, cool. Now I'm addicted to it. A tip: start reading High Republic books and
Oh.
comics.
I'm going to talk about the High Republic. That's so cool. You can really have an entry point anywhere. That really shows you exactly. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. What a fun trajectory.
Absolutely. Luke revealing himself as a spoilers, Dad, as a master with the black outfit, cloak and all is why Return of the Jedi was always my favorite overall. I don't know that
Okay.
I've remembered it was his favorite also because it was mine. Yeah.
That is, and honestly, respectfully, Luke annoys me, especially in A New Hope. Now he's supposed to. He's like a young
Yeah.
guy. He lives in
Power
the middle of nowhere,
converters.
inexperienced.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to go to the power station. But you know what? This is exactly it, Larry. Like, I didn't really get what people loved about Luke until Return of the Jedi. Now, when I rewatch those movies, I have a greater appreciation. And then also reading a lot of the Legends books really increased my appreciation for Luke. But I completely agree with that moment. Yeah.
Oh, Mark's here. Hello. Boy, do I feel
One of our favorite Canadians.
Yeah, the best. Can we die or do a magic trick? Yeah, we'll talk about it. Let's see. Hello, Remco. Blockbuster had the toys first. I don't remember that, but we didn't go to Blockbuster all the time.
Ugh, love Blockbuster. R.I.P. Always smelled like
Yeah,
popcorn.
rip forever. Had the Phantom Menace book as a child.
Love that.
Did you kiss your poster of him before you went to sleep? I mean, I don't think I went
What
that far.
happened between Kristen and her poster is just none of our business. We already got a private look into the tin, the notebook of secret phrases.
Listen, that
This
I'll never
isn't an all
understand.
access episode. Limited preview.
Yeah, I see a tin collecting craze coming out. Honestly, it made me be like, why don't we have these anymore? Like,
There were
nice.
collector tins for a lot of things.
Yeah, this is nice. It held up, you know? What are we doing?
You know what's underappreciated? This is very American. I don't know that other countries really have this. I feel like it's really popular in the Midwest, but we had it in the Northeast too. At Christmas time. The giant tins that have the 3 popcorns, regular, cheese, and caramel.
Mm-hmm.
That was excessive. Why did we need those tins? But, they still make them. I see them every once
They
in a while.
do
I'm like,
still make
"What do
them.
people do with those tins after?"
Well, it's funny is I think a few years ago my mom got me one of those, and I was thinking like it was an elf one,
Oh, that's
and
cute.
it is cute. But then I
Like
was
the
like, what do
movie
we?
Elf?
Yeah. But then I was
Okay,
like, what do we do with this? It's
exactly.
quite big. So,
And
yeah,
if
it's
you
hard.
buy them, like, once a year, like, if it's your thing once a
Yeah,
year,
pretty.
you
It's
got,
too
like,
many.
20 tins at like, in a blink of an eye.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
100%. Freddie, I'm glad you enjoyed my embarrassing list.
It was so endearing, and it took me back. Like, I just was like, "Yeah, I have that sort of stuff too." That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just what we did.
People are gonna say oink oink forever now. I think. Thanks, Mary.
Hillbilly voice. Oink, oink.
I put both my hands up when you did that and dropped my phone on the floor so convincing. That's funny. Elementary, Mark. You know, it's been a long time. I don't even remember if that's accurate. I think it
I
is
was in middle school, Mark, if it makes you feel better.
though. College. I was in college, 2000.
Mm.
Another old guy here remembers seeing the original Star Wars in the theater
Mm,
in Lexington, Kentucky as a child. They actually had someone in a Vader costume walking around inside the theater. That's fun.
cool.
Love that.
And kinda
Yeah, it's
scary, actually, if I was a kid.
honestly, yeah. Protected that card just for this moment display. It's been sitting there in an attic forever. With Star Wars original in theater by myself in Smiths Falls. That's awesome.
Nice.
I'm glad you enjoy that, Elon. Kristen Lost Long Log Pen Pal is watching this right now. Is heartbroken. She doesn't remember her postcard. It said Lana or something, and I was like, I don't remember a Lana.
Ooh,
I don't know.
Lana.
So if you're
And
out
those were
there,
your
Lana,
secret codes on your postcard. She's
no
watching this
idea.
and she's like, "You don't remember what
Yeah.
hillbilly voice oink oink means?"
Like,
And I've been
how
devastated.
dare
I've
you?
been in therapy for years over this.
Uh, we care. Yeah, you guys like my embarrassing things. I love it. Star Wars is great and all, but what about yesterday's burritos? Tacos were great. My dad made
Mm.
tacos. It's a good
Did you
time.
bring your own sauce or did you
I
do
did, and
stock
I
one?
accidentally left it in your fridge,
Oh,
Dad. Sorry.
you have it for next time.
Yeah, yeah. My dad went with his dad after having read the Marvel adaptation and the great Treasury size comic. That's
Nice.
cool. The only Star Wars memorabilia I own is an empty bottle of Darth Maul shower gel. What an interesting thing to keep.
Also, I love it. And if I
Yeah,
had it, it would be in my bathroom.
yeah, that rules. The tennis was 25 years old. I know. That's
Yep.
crazy. I was obsessed with Star Wars from the moment I saw the first trailer in '77. That's awesome.
Nice.
Hello, Mara. Good to
Hi,
see you.
Mara.
With the power converters. Lego Star Wars is low key a banging game. It is so fun.
It's really good. It's
It
so
is
I
so
love all
fun.
those Lego games, but yeah, Star Wars is a blast.
Your tins really held up. None of mine did. Freddie, what were you doing with those tins? Not
Well,
keeping them in an attic?
you saw how Kristen protected Hayden in that sleeve. You didn't think she was
Hmm.
gonna let anything happen to the tin-sized
I was
version
like,
of him.
absolutely not. Cheese on popcorn. Why? I mean, it's good.
It's cheese powder, Elon.
Yeah, it's not real cheese. Shows this popcorn tin that I keep in. Yeah, what do you put in that thing? Hello, Batmanda.
Oh, I'm so glad Batman is here because I saw she was reading this weeks ago, and I was like,
Love that.
"Yes, I'm so excited that folks have
That's
been reading Lost Stars."
very exciting. Hello, Catherine. My grandmother used to store her yarn in the big popcorn tins. That is awesome.
This tracks. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what and we are just behind the generational curve. So we need to get into using more yarn
Yes.
in order to use up our Christmas tins. Okay.
Yes. Plot twist. What if it's at Gale?
Oh my god, though, what if it
What would
was?
I do? Does she still watch? Let her know.
I don't know, fake Gail Simone dipped
Fake Gale
out.
Simone.
So
All right. That is my nostalgia trip. How about your Star Wars recommendations? Here we go.
let's go. Listen, I've got a couple of slides of book recommendations. Kristen mentioned, she shared some of the books she has read, but hadn't read Star Wars books in a long time when we
Hmm.
talked about Lost Stars, actually a couple, like 2 years ago, a year ago. And so I was like, maybe other people haven't checked out a lot of Star Wars books, but like Star Wars. So while I didn't have the built up nostalgia, I have no Hayden Christensen tins in my attic. To my dismay, I do own digitally the first season and only season of Canadian teen drama Higher Ground. Everybody go watch.
Nice.
But I was slacking on the nostalgia. So I have a couple of books, and I tried to mostly have them be points that you could kind of jump into if you'd consumed at least some of the movies or TV shows. And tried to think of ones that intersected a little with Lost Stars, maybe in things that people liked about Lost Stars. You could go check this book out. You know what I mean? So, with all that being said, I want to first recommend one of my favorites of all time, Star Wars Dark Disciple. Now, I start in here because the smallest amount of people are going to really want to read this book. You really only can read this one if you have some familiarity with the Clone Wars. Quinlan Voss and Asajj Ventress are the main characters. So if you don't have familiarity there, it's probably not going to work for you. But if you have watched the Clone Wars, this is really like it's an adult novel, unlike Lost Stars, and it has a lot of the same angst and a lot of the same themes about light and dark and perspective and right and wrong. Um, Something's happening at Kristen's home. The cantina?
It's fine.
It's come by popular demand.
I didn't want to
Um,
distract you. I forgot my rating board, so I tried.
okay, no problem. But yeah, this is one that's got angst and romance, but also tragedy. It's really heavy on the tragedy. So if you've watched Clone Wars, this is a great adult novel to jump into.
Awesome. One day I'll do that.
And now you don't have to have watched Clone Wars. You ready, Kristen? Get your pen and
Yes,
paper out.
I got it. I got my
Both by
pen.
Claudia Gray, because she is my favorite Star Wars author and many people's. It's not like a niche opinion or anything like that. I've picked out a young adult novel and an adult novel, both centered on Leia. So if you're a Leia fan, these are good places to start. The first one is Leia, Princess of Alderaan. This is a YA novel. So like Lost Stars, similar writing style, similar like vibe as far as level of violence or politics, like nothing too intense or complex, although Lost Stars gets pretty wild. So, and we'll get there. But this focuses a lot on Leia's training to become a political leader, whether she wants to become a leader or not. And if you are someone who watched The Last Jedi and was like, who's this random purple haired Holdo lady? This is where you can learn about her, and it definitely adds to your viewing of the movie because she feels a bit less random, and you see sort of her dynamic with Leia, who is engaged essentially in a galactic model UN scenario.
Hmm.
It's a really great Leia book. And like Lost Stars, I think it's a YA book that adults also could get a lot out of. Yeah, I think Reed is practicing music, Mark.
Yeah, I'm gonna text him like that's loud, buddy.
The other one is Bloodline. This is an adult Leia book. This is taking place after the original series has ended, but before The Force Awakens. It's kind of the fallout of Leia and other leaders of the time trying to rebuild essentially society and order, etc. Lots of debates, political debates about what's the right thing to do. What is essentially recreating the empire, for example, when they're trying to restore order? How far do they go in that? It's also dealing with the fallout of Leia learning Vader is her dad. Spoiler alert, which you don't get really any of in the movie. She has almost no reaction to that. They have to move on. And so this is a good one if you want to see what it's like for her to reckon with that. And then also for other people to start finding out that that may be a possibility and how that makes them look at her differently. And so that one's adult and really heavy on the politics. Both are Claudia Gray. So if you like the writing style and Lost Stars, these should both work for you. And then these are both kind of master and apprentice stories, quite literally. In the case of one is Claudia Gray, Master and Apprentice. These are both adult books. Obviously, Master and Apprentice is if you were someone who really thought Qui-Gon Jinn was super neat, you wanted to learn more about him, but he doesn't last super long in the series. This is a good one. Also, if you wanted to see what Obi-Wan was like as a Padawan, which is really interesting, it also has one of the most beautiful descriptions of the Force I've ever read. And both of these books are about the dynamics between master and apprentice, and then they both have like an action mystery plot to them. I think the plot in Master and Apprentice is a bit stronger than the one in Brotherhood. Brotherhood's a bit newer. This is again, if you're somebody like me who just your heart was filled with the angst of the screaming lava scene on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith, and you loved that. Definitely read Brotherhood. It'll add to the heartache more. Um, this is, of course, about the dynamic between Obi-Wan and Anakin. You start to see some of the cracks in their relationship form in a bit more of a nuanced way. I think some people, when they get to Revenge of the Sith, it feels like a lot of stuff escalated really quickly, including this rapport that wasn't super established on screen, maybe as well as it could have been. This novel will sort of fill some of that in. So both of these are adult novels. Yes. Okay. So now the High Republic person, I can't remember who said that they were reading some High Republic. I did include High Republic. This is a publishing initiative that spans prose books, comics, and also audio dramas, actually. There are 3 phases. The 3rd phase is actually about to start or has just started. But phase 1 and 2, I picked a starting point in each of them. Supposedly, with this publishing initiative, which is again leading up to the Phantom Menace, it's supposed to show how the Jedi developed the mindset that they have in the Phantom Menace and how they developed a huge blind spot for everything that was going on under their thumbs. If supposedly you could pick any of these books and read them without reading the others, I strongly disagree with that. I don't think that's true at all. That may be true for a couple of them, but I picked 2 starting points chronologically. On the left, The Path of Deceit. It's the first of 2 YA novels. So there is a sequel. It's already out. It's called Path of Vengeance. This is if you want something that's Star Wars and it's like about the Force, but it's totally separate from the Star Wars you know. Also, if it's for you if you like cults and you think they're super interesting to learn about. It has a similar star-crossed lovers situation to Lost Stars. You have a Padawan who uses the Force, is being trained in the Force, and you have a young woman who's grown up in a cultish group that believes you shouldn't use the Force at all, and they fall in love with each other. High Republic also has several on-page canonically queer characters, which is really exciting. One of which, well, 2 of which are in The Path of Deceit, and it's YA, like Lost Stars is YA. The other starting point is further in time chronologically from that, but you don't have to have read anything that comes before it. There's an adult trilogy. I've only included the first 2 books on the slide. It starts with Light of the Jedi. The next one's Fallen Star by one Claudia Gray. These are all written by different authors. They follow a core group of characters. They're both adult, or this series is adult, and it's really high on action and death. There's a lot of people who die in this. So if you are someone who gets attached and can't handle a lot of deaths, this is not the trilogy for you. Don't pick it up. Path of Deceit will also break your heart, but in a kind of different way. So yeah, these are good starting points in the High Republic era, pre Phantom Menace. I mentioned Legends earlier. Legends are non-canonical books now, but books that came out before the prequels, even during the prequels, but basically before Disney was like, hey, we're resetting, and now these are official canon books. These are just some of the ones that I've read and loved. The first is the Thrawn trilogy. I think it's one of the best trilogies. I actually haven't finished the 3rd book, so apologies for not being able to speak on how it ends, but I heard that it ends really well. And this is involving all of your faves kind of right after that original trilogy ends, and introduces Thrawn, who's obviously a wildly popular book character, soon to be live action character, has been animated character. So while it's not canon anymore, it's still a fun adventure. And it's kind of fun to see, like, after you've watched The Force Awakens, etc., the alternate reality that could have been. I think it's still fun to revisit these. If you really liked Revenge of the Sith like me, but you again thought that trajectory of Anakin felt a bit fast or rushed, I definitely would recommend the Darth Bane trilogy. You follow this very sweet boy, he can do no wrong, and then he does very wrong. He goes very wrong. This is a very solid trilogy following sort of the dark side. So if you like kind of that angle of things, similarly, highly recommend for Kristen, even though it's not canon, Labyrinth of Evil, which is a standalone Legends book that takes place right after Revenge of the Sith, and I think adds a lot actually to that trilogy, even if it's not canon. And then I couldn't help. I love Kenobi. He's my boy. I don't know what to tell you. So I've included his standalone novel that's Legends that did inspire the TV series, but if you watch the TV series, which is canon, you'll see there's a lot of differences that Disney chose to make.
Nice. I'm definitely writing that one down.
And then last but not least, because I wanted to pick something related to Attack of the Clones, not just Lost Stars, I chose, and I hope I can't. Was Hayden? Did Hayden pop in? Yes, Hayden, your moment has come. Hayden is always correct. The Revenge of the Sith novelization is one of the greatest Star Wars books of all time. It's definitely the best novelization of a movie, in my opinion, but it's definitely one of the best of all time. It adds immensely to the movie. It's incredibly well written. It's poetic. It's dramatic. It's nuanced. It has so many great themes. I cannot recommend it enough, especially if you did read this. That's a great place to then jump in next. And then there are several like movie tie-ins that have come out that have been great. I just picked one that stands out. I know a lot of people really loved Rogue One. It's one of their favorite. It seems to be one of the most popular um, under Disney umbrella movies that's come out. And Catalyst is an adult prequel to that. It adds a lot to Jin's father and the setup of that movie. So if you liked Rogue One, this is also really short. I remember it being like 280 pages. And honestly, I sort of loved it more than almost as much, if not more than Rogue One. So it's a really great one to check out if you're a Rogue One fan. Yeah, so some of those novelizations or tie-ins are great books on their own as well. But yeah, this is an area I know something about, even if I don't have Hayden Christensen tins in my attic. This is my Star
Yeah,
Wars space.
this is awesome. I want to read all of these for sure. So wonderful presentation. Love it. And thank you, Batmanda, for reading it just for the show. That is awesome. Freddie Loves Dark Disciple, forward by Katie Lucas, who's not even low key, was one of the best Clone Wars writers. Okay.
Yes, agreed. Yes.
Hayden also
Yes.
loves that. Mark is making some Canada references.
Ain't no Edison twins. I'll write it down.
Yep. I made Reed stop. Sorry. All I hear is great things about Claudia Gray. Need to read those. I believe that's where the term Hut Slayer came from. And Claudia Gray is Hayden's
Yes.
favorite. Don't believe the Cantina tune. Yeah, he should have.
That's what I thought was happening, and then I was like, "No, it's a little bit
No.
more chaotic than that."
The reaction to her planet blowing up until Wade wrote her mini series. Yeah. Rita's apologizing.
Aw, it's okay, Gail. We forgive you.
Chancellor Reed will now address the Senate. Yeah, my dad's always said when I first met Reed, he was like, "What's his last name? That sounds so Star Wars."
It does, though. Yeah.
I wish there was a book about Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Time in the Run. There probably, I mean, is there not? I feel like there's a book on everything now, right?
Not with Satine that I'm aware of. I
Hmm.
can try to search. There I don't wanna spoil anything. There's a plot in Master and Apprentice, Batmanda, if you haven't read it, and you think it might be like, it could have easily been the Satine a Satine-related plot, and it winds up not being. I'm just telling you, like, right flat out. And that was disappointing. I remember reading it like, "Oh." So, not that I know of, but if anyone finds one, I think we both would be interested, Batmanda and I.
She also loved the original Thrawn trilogy. Honestly, Disney just could have made those into movies.
Yeah, I do like where most of the original trilogy characters end up for the most part, but I'm okay, like, where we started going anyways when we reset.
This is like a Star Wars webinar.
Welcome.
I like that. I really recommend Wrath of Darth Maul. That one goes
Mm.
through his training, and spoiler, there's a Mandalorian. That's cool. Noir Wolf is reading through on Alliances right now. Love that character. Hello, Farhan. Just done with Arsenal. Okay, at 2 a.m. here.
Man
Oh,
United.
yeah. I'm like
Soccer
I'm
game.
not understanding what that means. Star Wars novel. By the way, Kristen, that epic rant on the tower with Jess was definitely pure gold. Just watch it and replay. Thanks, Farhan. You were
We
around for
should
that, right,
rank Kristen
Jessica?
like in a year from now. Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. When Jess had the voice of God too. Yeah.
Mm,
I think a year from now we should rank, like tier rank. You know how people tier rank videos? We're gonna tier
yeah.
rank your rants.
Okay.
Roy
Yeah.
Thomas is S tier so far,
Yeah. Got it.
but something may surpass it.
Love that. The extra layer content in the Force Awakens novel is worth it 100%.
I
That's
really
good to
liked
know.
the novelizations for both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. I did not read the novelization for Rise of Skywalker.
Mm.
I don't think I will be.
I know Jessica's a huge football fan. Wonder which club she supports.
In Premier League? Oh, Nottingham Forest. You're welcome to josh me in the comments. Totally fine. You gotta stick with your team.
Have you read any Star Wars books that fundamentally didn't understand and ruin characters from the series?
Yes, and I'll do it as a comment later just because if it's somebody's favorite, I don't wanna, like, trash it because I think there are, like, comics runs that I read that I'm like, "This is my version of the character," and then there are other people who are like, "This totally missed the point of this character." So, I don't want to totally trash them, but there are, and a lot of them to me have come from the tie-ins to the movies, like prequels to this isn't an example of one specifically, but like the prequel to Solo, the Solo movie, for example, things like that. I feel like those writers, if they don't hire a good one, really miss the characterization.
Death Troopers was also fun. Young Han and zombie stormtroopers. That's fun. Do the novels ever reference events in the comics or just the movies and TV shows?
For High Republic, yeah, for High Republic specifically, the novels definitely talk about events in the comics and vice versa because they're like an interconnected. I'm not really sure. I'd have to think about if the novels have so far had references to, for example, the TV shows, obviously the movies, but I don't know about the TV shows. I'd have to think about that.
I love Mass Effect, and the first of the novels were really good, and the last one completely ruined. I didn't
Mm,
understand the characters. Like the writer never even read or understood them. That's frustrating. Yeah.
yeah. Also, Maddie keeps getting me to try to play Mass Effect.
Yeah. Freddie wants you to trash it, like real bad.
When Kristen and I do an evening show, then I'll trash it.
Do an after dark show.
After dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Then we'll do something. Yeah.
All right.
Well, the time has come, Kristen.
Yes.
And what has the time come for? Can I remember the name of this segment? Gold
Mm.
Star segment.
Yeah, I was like, wait, let me
Uh,
look.
where we give our non-spoilery thoughts, but rank out of 5 gold stars, or in Kristen's case, rainbow stars, for our picks. And I'm gonna propose you go first with your non-spoilery thoughts
Okay.
from one of your favorite movies, novel adaptation, Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones by R.A. Salvatore. R.A. Salvatore writes has to be 100 novels a year, I just want to say.
That's wild.
Novelizations of things, fantasy books. I have seen this name so much in my lifetime. But yes, it's based on the story by George Lucas and the screenplay by George Lucas and Jonathan Hales. Tell us, Kristen, your non-spoilery thoughts.
Non-spoilery thoughts. Well, first off, I listened to this via audiobook, and I have to say, I actually listened to Lost Stars as well. And when I started to listen to it, I told Jessica, I was like, I had no idea there would be Star Wars noises. I can't believe it. So I had no idea that all of the Star Wars audiobooks are like high production. You get like the music from Star Wars, you get the character voices, you get droid noises, you
Droid.
get ship noises, you get saber noises. Like it adds so much to it. So when I was listening to this, it really
Yeah.
did feel like the movie, which
Yeah.
was nice. It was super. I loved the audiobook production value. That was great.
Yeah. So true.
Um, yeah, it also brought me back in time, and I think the stuff that was added here, especially with like Anakin's mom, and the
Yes.
we get more of that. That was very interesting and good to see. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was nice to see more of the journey that happened there because I we definitely
Mm-hmm.
didn't get that much in the movie. So I enjoyed the extra stuff, and it did make me want to continue with Revenge of the Sith. Absolutely. So yeah, especially production value alone, I really enjoyed it, and it was a blast from the past at the same time because I
Mm-hmm.
was like, um, what a lot of people hate about Attack of the Clones, I think,
Mm.
is a lot of the politics and
Mm-hmm.
that stuff being potentially drawn out more than a lot of people like,
Mm.
especially. And I felt that also
Mm-hmm.
listening to it, right? But it was still a fun time for me.
Mm-hmm. That makes me really happy that it holds up for you.
It was fun. I don't know.
No, that makes me really happy.
Okay,
And
good.
yeah, I mean, you shared about the audiobook, and I feel like I didn't respond appropriately. I was like, "Yeah, duh, they're all like that."
Yeah, you were like,
Because I was,
why
like,
don't you
so
know
excited, and
anything?
I was like,
Yeah,
"They're all like
yeah,
that?"
you were like, please
But
calm
I agree.
down.
I agree, and especially if you don't love reading action scenes. Sometimes I really don't like reading battle scenes. I
I
get
don't either.
lost in the description. It keeps you engaged with that, I think. Just very
100%.
specifically want to say in addition to. But yeah, the audiobooks, if you've never tried one out, you got to. And audiobooks can be pricey, but again, if you check with your local library, most local libraries now use a audiobook and ebook app. And so you don't even have to go to the library, and you could be listening to that baby in your living room today at
Yeah.
no cost.
These were both free for me from my
Yeah,
library on Libby, which is the best library app.
it's a good one. It's a good one. I used it as well, and I used it for this too. I read
Yeah.
half physically, and I don't own the audio. I mean, surprisingly, I don't own the audiobook for this one. I do own the Lost Stars audiobook. Um, do you have any do you wanna did you have any downsides when you were rereading it, or did you feel like it's exactly what you expected and it still held up for you?
um, yeah, I feel like it was what I expected.
Mhm.
And I liked the moments that were added that we didn't get
Yeah.
in the movies, right? And I think it makes me want to go back and read all of the novelizations because I'm like, oh, to see those extra things that were maybe cut from the screenplay or that were fleshed out
Mhm.
a little bit more is worth it to me.
Mhm. Yeah. For me, I don't know how I followed this when I was picking this up without any Star Wars knowledge. I
I
will say
can't
that.
imagine that
I'm,
either.
like,
Yeah.
so impressed with the younger version of me who just saw these faces and was like, "I wanna know." Like, good for your, tunnel vision there, friend. Um, I hadn't revisited it since then. I totally agree with you on your positives of especially Smee, like, it's really cool to see her because spoiler, all of this is spoilers for Star Wars. I think we've made that clear,
Yeah.
but, the loss of her is one of those straws as far as
Yeah.
Anakin's,
Huge moment.
eventual
Yeah.
break and path towards the dark side, and you really don't get too much other than in Phantom Menace with her, so I did really like that. Also because more has come out about the Lars family, in different Star Wars media way in current times. It's kind of cool to see a bit more about, their marriage as well and, like, kind of how she rebuilt a bit after losing Anakin, and I really liked that. I also think I'm not a gal who really loves the Jango Boba Fett stuff. It's like
Hmm.
usually not my favorite, but I actually think this book does a really good job with their relationship, and I really liked that
I agree.
as well.
Yeah, I have to say I absolutely agree because I never really care about that either. But I was
Hmm.
like, oh no, this is kind of like sweet, and
Hmm.
he wanted a son, like.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, and I think the other thing that this did well is, in my opinion, Padme's best movie probably, or definitely one of them, is Attack of the Clones. It is not my favorite of the movies, but if I had to be like, which are the best movies if you love Padme, this might be number 1 above Phantom Menace, but it's one of the, you know,
Hmm.
I think it might be, and particularly because of the insight into the way she sees the world and politics. There's one spoilery thing that I didn't love related to that, but I'll get to it in the spoiler section. But I also think, like, if you're a Padme fan, this particularly this novelization is like you've got to have it just for that alone because you just don't get a lot of Padme. And I know there are people who've mentioned it in the chat before. I didn't have any of the Padme books on my recommendations because I haven't finished them yet, but a lot of people love them. So there is a whole trilogy with Padme if you're interested. I don't think it's direct, each one is directly connected to the other, but they all take place in the same time period.
I've been wanting to read those because obviously I mean, Natalie Portman's maybe my favorite actress of all
Hmm.
time. So
Wow. I didn't know that.
yeah,
I'm learning a lot about
yeah,
you.
I love
Wow.
Natalie.
I
Yeah.
feel closer to you after this episode.
Leon the Professional is like my favorite movie of all time. So, and she
Wow.
was a kid in that. Yeah.
I've honestly never heard of that movie in my life before.
Oh, Jessica.
Oh, Leon the Professional and the Edison
Yes,
twins. Okay.
yes. I mean, it's brutal, but it's great.
Okay. Okay. Well, I won't watch it now, but I'll watch it when I'm
Mm,
mentally stable.
yeah.
Um, things that were downsides that are non-spoilery. This isn't the fault of the book necessarily, but the dialogue is not great in this book, in
No.
my opinion. And what's interesting is all the novelizations certainly use a lot of the dialogue from the screenplay because that's what the author has when they're writing it. But for example, in Revenge of the Sith, they improve upon it as well. That doesn't happen here. I also think like the connective tissue, while it was interesting, like the extra bits, they didn't really flow as a book very well. It was like it felt like a series of deleted scenes at times that weren't super connected. And again, I'm comparing it to Revenge of the Sith, something that's narratively a bit more cohesive. So like my downsides really are that it felt a bit repetitive at times. Sometimes things felt a bit bloated and sometimes things felt a bit rushed because it kind of felt like the author took the screenplay and kind of just shoved it into this book. The screenplay, which is inclusive of the deleted scenes, because some of the extra scenes that are in here are deleted scenes for the movie as well. Um, Whereas like a lot of the other novelizations, I feel like do a bit more work to make it flow as a book and have like the, you know, the arcs that a book would have versus a movie. So those were some of my downsides as far as comparing it to especially other novelizations, which, you know, carry this extra burden of like having a source material that they're adapting. But I agree with all of your positives. I didn't binge through it the way I did in middle school. I don't know what I was on that weekend. But it never felt like a heavy I never felt like, "Oh, I gotta keep listening to this book for the show." I was like, "All right, we're back here again. Let's get going."
Yeah.
And, that was a pleasant surprise because I was a bit nervous how I would feel rereading it, knowing it's not one of my favorite movies. Um, yeah, so those are my overall, non-spoilery thoughts.
Well, and I certainly agree with the dialogue, but I was just kind of like, oh, it's the movie dialogue because it's not great either. Like we all know that. I mean, I'm not
No.
claiming that.
No. Not at all, not at all. No, no. Yeah. Do you wanna do our stars both at the end when we after we talk about Lost Stars? You wanna do our stars now for
uh,
this one? What do you think?
let's go for it. I want to see yours. Let's do it.
All right. Well, I already put Lost Stars on there, so I'm gonna cover it up.
Oh,
And I gave 3 stars, which
nice.
was that was fine. For perspective, if you've been following us this summer, I also gave X-Men Evolution 3 stars. I
Mm-hmm.
gave the Spider-Man, Mary Jane Loves Spider-Man 3 stars. And there were several books, 2 books that fell below that. So it is not the worst thing we've read this summer. I can't say it was very good for me, but I think it was fine. I think the movie gets trashed probably more than it deserves, and I, also think the book gets trashed a bit more than it deserves.
That seems totally fair. I'm putting my stars on now.
Mm.
I am.
Read from the other room, not Gail Simone. Drum roll, please.
Oh, that's funny. Again, as we've talked about before, I don't do half stars. So because I feel like if I did, it'd be a little bit less. But I am doing 4 stars for Attack of the Clones.
Wow.
With the acknowledgement that I'm not saying it was amazing, but for my
That's
personal
okay.
feelings and nostalgia, I really enjoyed it. So that's a
Yeah.
4, you know?
Love it.
Especially, I have to give big props to how I read it too. Like the audiobook was very well done. I thought the narrator was great on top of everything else. We got Jar Jar voices going on. We've got like good stuff happening. So it was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah, if you can't tell by now, we are fully endorsing. We should have been sponsored by Star Wars
Honestly.
audiobooks.
Yeah,
Been good since the beginning and still just only leveling up in production quality.
truly. Truly. Real quick, Remco, yes, check out the
Yes, we've sold
audiobooks.
someone.
Absolutely. Did you get the Stormtrooper death scream? You know what? I don't remember actually. Summer Ready program After Dark. Freddie thinks you'll love Mass Effect.
Everyone does, Freddie. Will I get
Yeah.
there? I don't know. You know how behind I am, Freddie. I was messaging you about something I was supposed to watch several days ago. This morning. I'm behind.
Yeah, Scream is goofy, but you know, yeah, absolutely. Clearly the greatest Star Wars cover. It's a good one.
There are actually 2 covers. You saw because on Goodreads they used the Yoda
Yeah,
cover, and I think
yeah,
I mean, no disrespect to Yoda.
yeah. It's not as
Disrespect
good.
none to. Yeah, no.
Yeah. I feel like me and Kristen could do a full episode retrospect just on Natalie Portman movies.
I would watch it
I mean, maybe we
because
should.
clearly I'm behind on Leon the Professional and the Edison twins. My list is growing, Freddie. When will I get to Mass Effect?
Hello, Watery Wizard. Thank you for being here.
Good to see you. I feel like we haven't seen Watery in a bit. So glad
Yeah.
you're back.
Freddie says, despite my hangups, love the prequels. Kid me was so impressed with everything in the second half of the movie since Janko fought Obi. Totally get that.
Hmm.
I'm going to need your guys' help on where to start with the audiobooks for these. Never read a Star Wars book, just seen the movies.
Mara,
Well,
you've come to the right place. I will be messaging you.
absolutely. And speaking of great places to start, so says
Honestly,
Jessica.
hopefully says Kristen.
Which, look at your nice hardcover. So nice.
Also, okay, I want to talk about something. She's not here, of course, but Maddie has been telling you she has my copy.
Yeah.
I have no clue whose copy that is. It is not mine because I would know if
I
it was
was
mine. I don't lend it out because mine is signed by one Claudia Gray.
amazing.
She wants the
Amazing.
Force to be with me, and that's why I keep this book with me. And I don't know whose book Maddie has.
That's so funny. She did
I
say
also
that.
use my Star Wars bookmark.
A
And this is so
beautiful.
true. Ain't this the truth?
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know whose book she has. I've been laughing every time she
That's
brings it
so
up. I'm like,
funny.
girl, I don't know whose copy you have. It ain't mine.
That is so funny. Yes, and I have this wonderful paperback. I have to say,
Nope.
the paperback version, the list price is $9.99. That's amazing. Can we just sit with that for a
Flop it,
moment?
Kristen. Flop it for the audience.
And I was about to say, also, it's a wonderful, wonderful floppy thing. You gifted this to me. I love and appreciate that so much. Look at it. I
It's
love
nice.
the floppiness. It is a nice flopper. That's right.
Yeah. And also, I mean, even the hardcover, it's textured. You can't tell. It's textured. And the you can you hold up yours a little bit? I do think this is cool because it's half imperial and then half rebel. Yeah, symbol that's on the right. It's also here in spot glass.
We love
So
that.
it's actually a very well made book in
even the
both
paperback
formats.
one has it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, very very cool cover. I like it. I feel like you're gonna have the best breakdown of this, so you are welcome.
No, I'm gonna have you still go first, but I will tell people what it's about.
Yeah.
Lost Stars, which was one of the first new canon novels, if not the first. It may have been the first, but I'm blanking right now. In the front of Kristen's copy, it says like something about the road to the Force Awakens or something like that on the cover. So it came out with a series of books that lead up.
This one doesn't.
It says it only on mine, and mine is on the shelf. My cover's over there. But it was a series of books that came out in the run up to the Force Awakens after the Disney purchase. So there were several like new canon novels. It did come out at a time when they were like, hey, that legend stuff no longer canon, and people were very upset. So it really had a lot of pressure going in. It also is a YA novel, which I think people have a lot of feelings about. But this book is about Thane and Sienna. Uh, how did the audiobook? I didn't listen to the audiobook in my reread, so it's been a
Mm-hmm.
while. Was it that how they said their names in the book, Thane and
Yeah.
Sienna?
Yeah.
Okay. And Thane and Sienna live in on a planet. Can I say it? Jai. How do you say it? How did the audio?
Jellican.
Jellican? Yeah,
Jellican is
Jellican.
what they said. Yeah.
Sienna is from a group of people who are native to Jellican, and Thane's family are what they call second waivers, aka kind of partly colonizers who've also come once the empire has spread throughout the galaxy, including to Jellican. Um, and the empire's had its foot on this planet for quite a while. The time frame that we're looking at with this book is it's going to really span around episode 4 all the way through actually well, yeah, past episode 6. And there's an event that happens at the end of this book that has a little moment, I guess you could say, in The Force Awakens, even though canonically that's way further ahead. And Kristen may or may not have connected what that is without having just rewatched Force Awakens, but I'll clue you in once we
Okay.
get there. But they grow up on this planet. The Empire's been in power for a while. The planet is not overly wealthy, doesn't have a lot of like options for careers. And so their dream is to be a part of the Empire. They aspire to go to the best Imperial Academy. They've been friends since they were childhood, and it does sort of follow them from they're about 7 or 8 when the book starts through early adulthood. And so they're basically going to aspire to go to the academy and then join the empire, all living their lives with the background being the events of episodes 4 through 6. So all the major blockbuster events of 4 through 6 are in here. Sometimes our characters directly intersect with those events, and sometimes our characters are in the background of those events, but those events have a personal impact that we can see on a smaller scale in the different perspective than the people living the blockbuster moments did in the movie. So that's kind of an overall. It's definitely a YA. It's definitely a romance book. It has a lot of action adventure and it has a lot of drama. But that's kind of the spoiler-free synopsis, I would say. Kristen, do you feel like that captures it for someone who didn't know what it was about before?
Absolutely. Yeah. You did
And I
right.
want to hear Kristen's non-spoilery thoughts on Lost Stars by Claudia Gray.
I will. I really enjoyed these two characters. I so we are obviously following them and getting a whole new perspective on like someone who's actually wanting to be an imperial pilot and wanting to join that whole situation
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like it's the right thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which we obviously, just having seen the movies and not having read further into any of this, we don't see, because we are following the heroes of
Mm-hmm.
the films, right? And we're just like, oh yeah, those people are obviously evil, of
Mm-hmm.
course. We get a little bit, deeper with the first episodes, but we're still not following that. So that was really fun to see,
Mm-hmm.
especially again from two people who are just like, who seem to be really good people. And they're like, this is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely the right thing to do, like
Mm-hmm.
this is the right side of everything. Those
Mm-hmm.
rebel, like everybody else, like, no, like they're like the bad people. And so seeing that perspective was really cool. Especially seeing it intersect with the movies and having those
Mm-hmm.
moments. I wasn't sure where this would end up falling,
Mm-hmm.
especially throughout the first part. So then seeing like they know of Luke and what he did and like know of other things, and I guess I
Mm-hmm.
won't get into spoilers or anything,
Mm-hmm.
um, but that was really cool too to see. I enjoyed I mean, we didn't get like first person perspective, but like
Mm-hmm.
kind of following each journey because they do both have a really different journey within their like where they're from and where they are and like you know um just their actual personal lives
Mm-hmm.
being so different and then going into the academy together, going through that
Mm-hmm.
journey. I like that there was a big like broad age that we got to see them
Mhm.
grow so much, right, into
Yeah.
like full adults from being kids. And that was really cool to see too. And again, I listened to the audiobook. I started reading it physically and then I started listening to the audiobook, which was very helpful for pronouncing names and
It's so
pronouncing
true.
planets.
Mhm.
And knowing, hearing those things instead of reading them and kind of not having that connection. That is something that I struggle with as someone who doesn't read a
Mhm.
lot of fantasy,
Mhm. Yeah.
where there are different names that we're not used to seeing and I don't know how to
Yeah.
pronounce, so that was really helpful, as well as any of the like flight battles and things like that. It is so much helpful, at least for me hearing this. I don't know that I ever want to physically read a Star Wars book after this. I'm like, hold on, they're all like this. What? Like it was a blast. I love
Mhm.
hearing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a good time with it. And I really liked, again, we saw that full journey. And I think it was a very well done full journey. Like,
Mhm.
and I love characters, as you know. I love it
Mhm.
way more than like battles and stuff. And we got
Mhm.
so much character growth and
Yeah.
development, and seeing those very two different perspectives and how they came together was
Mhm.
awesome. So I really enjoyed it.
Ooh, I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm realizing too when you were talking, my notebook is in a different room, so I'm gonna wing it. I
Oh.
was like, "Oh, did I take notes? Yes. Are they not next to me? They're not, but I don't care." That makes me really happy to hear, and I really have very little to add as far as the pros of that. I think that the only additional thing as far as things that, yeah, were a pro that I liked, mostly to just flesh out what you said, I guess, though, is I feel like there's a lot more. It was more a matter, I mean, I think you were spot on when you talked about how it's showing a different perspective. So, like, the example that you gave is they think here the empire restored order, and when they see a rebel attack, it's like a terrorist attack to them because people do die when that happens. And so, and there are a couple of moments like that in the book. I think additionally, with Thane and Sienna, it's so hard to not. I'm trying to think if I can spoil or not. That's what I was thinking of in my head that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think out all the way. Was just to say, personality wise, what I thought was interesting is Thane is a bit more of a cynic. I actually think Thane's whole thing was, I want to get off this planet. I actually don't. For me personally, I didn't read him as someone who thought the Empire was necessarily good. I think he thought maybe they're on the right side, like, history is progressing in a good way. Things are more safe now, but I actually think he just wanted to get out and he was cynical about everything. And it's fun to see where
Yeah.
his character ended up and what side he ended
Mm-hmm.
up on. And then Sienna, I'm really questioning myself how I
I
read it in my
think they
head.
said Sienna. Yeah.
Sienna, she is like a rule follower, and it's fun to see what side a rule follower goes on. And she's also an optimist. I think she, like you said, genuinely believes they're the right. So it was
Mm-hmm.
not just seeing people on the side that you don't normally see or from a perspective you don't see, but it was also interesting to flesh out the idea that you can be a good person on the wrong side. You can also be a person that's not really the best. Like, you wouldn't root for them as like the main leader, but yet they wind up on the right side. You know what I mean? Like, I think that
Yeah,
is,
absolutely.
I think it's just really nuanced. And, in retrospect, I'm not going to get into how I feel about the end of the new trilogy. It's not my favorite, and I'm not going to go into detail, but I will say I do think this book, being written in advance of The Force Awakens, was used for two things. I actually do think they gave Claudia this general rough outline to prepare us for a star-crossed lovers, where we were going to have to theoretically root for someone who maybe chose the wrong side. For better or worse, whether we did that or not, we rooted for them or not. And I also think it was written to show us exactly that you can be morally gray, but on the right side. You don't, have to check all these boxes to fit into one side or the other. It's a bit muddled. It's hard to do without spoilers, but I think it's great. And honestly, why it's a book I recommend to people is you get to relive a lot of your favorite moments from that original trilogy. You see them from a different perspective. They enhance, I really do believe they enhance you like watch the movies later and you're like, oh, I wonder if they're in the scene. You're like, no, they're not in the scene. The book wasn't written. But you do that. You'll find yourself
Yeah.
doing that because you now see it with a totally different set of eyes. Um, so it really does enhance that. There's also, I guess, the downside of this book for me personally, especially on this is my third time reading it. The first downside is really that I think they could have done a bit more with some of the side characters. Some are really, really interesting, like Nash. Nash is an Alderanian who's in the Imperial Academy. So you can imagine how the events of the original trilogy are going to weigh on him, how he's going to see someone like Leia as a traitor. And you have one way you think he might react to the destruction of his planet. Again, that's a movie spoiler, not a book spoiler. But he doesn't necessarily do that. And I thought that was really interesting. But I wanted more of that. I want more from the side characters. And the romance was really heavy my third time. I kind of forgot how like they were simping over each other during like life and death moments. And I was like, this is not the number one priority. And that was when they were adults too. Like there's times when they're teenagers and they're doing that. And you're like, yeah, that's how a teenager's brain often works. But those are really my only downsides. I think it's remarkable how much she wove into how much of the familiar story she wove into original characters who had their own original story to tell. What a balancing act in a YA novel that I think she pulled off marvelously. So those are my overall sort of non-spoilery thoughts.
Nice. So, what is your rating? Your third time reading it rating. Did your
My
rating ever change?
yes, you know Kristen. I I use Goodreads off and on, so who
Yeah.
knows what's on there. Apparently, I gave this 4 stars the first time I read it. I thought it was a 5-star book. Like for years, I've been like, "This is my favorite one,
Yeah.
5 stars." It was funny to go in there, and I was like, "Oh, I I rated it 4."
Interesting.
Anyways, I think I don't know why I rated it 4 the first time, but I've been ahead. It's been a 5. I think this time I landed at 4.5.
Okay.
So it's above very good. Yeah, it's above like very solid, very good, but it's not quite no notes because I do have a couple notes. I
Sure.
do think this is one of the best places for people to start with Star Wars novels. Adult, young adult, I can hardly think of a new canon novel that's a better place to start.
This makes sense to me. So, I have to tell you,
Hmm.
I haven't been sure what I'm going to rate this
Wow.
because I think I'm with you. Um, if I had half stars, I'd use them here. Okay. So I'm ultimately going with 4, but part of me was
She's
like,
giving it what she gave Attack of the Clones. Everyone take a moment. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
listen, hey, I told you those are nostalgic stars. That's
Really,
what those are.
it's 3 and what she's saying is it's 3.5 and 4.5 is what she's saying without saying.
Actually, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm saying. Yeah,
yeah.
that's absolutely what I'm saying because Lost Stars was better. Of course it was.
Mm-hmm.
And part of me's like,
Yeah, it
well,
makes sense.
part of me's still like, do I want to give it a 5? Like, part of me still like that
Mm,
because I thought it was great. But I'm with you on especially the Nash thing. There, I wanted more from that. And there were
yeah.
other things that I can like pinpoint, but absolutely this. And again, maybe I'll waffle on it and be like, you know what, this is 5 stars. But yeah,
Mm,
there should be a half. I would also agree with you. I would agree with your rating. Absolutely.
yeah.
Almost a
That makes
5.
sense. And I'm really
Yeah.
glad that I really wasn't sure how you would feel about it because you don't read a lot of science fiction and fantasy. And
Hmm.
even though it's Star Wars, it's something you're familiar with, like that fact is still true, like, and I know that from talking to you. So I really wasn't sure where it would land. So I'm really happy that it landed where it did for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark's saying, if you made up the rating system, why can't you give half stars? Sometimes and not other times. Mostly, I just can't use them on Goodreads, so it bothers me. You know what I mean? Like, I have to put something there, and that's what I'm stuck with. So, yeah, 4 for Goodreads. Okay, that man done makes
Oh,
sense.
we're all
We're
aligned.
all the same. Look at us.
And Batman, you were one of the first people I saw that was reading it for the show. So please do feel free to put in your thoughts in the chat. Anyone who's read it.
And I'd say I don't think we can be objective about a story we are emotionally connected to, and I don't think we need to. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that's
it's
why I
true.
was like, Attack of the Clones. I'm not saying this is amazing for anyone, but
We
yeah,
even
I
said that
have
with
that
X-Men
connection. Like, so
Evolution. We
yeah,
were like, this is not a 3 for other people,
yeah. I mean, 100%,
but we're
100%.
here. And it's fine.
100%. Um, Hello, Cycle. How you doing? I read Lost Stars in December 2015. I read
Mm.
it in 2 or 3 crazy sittings with my bulldog snoring on my lap. Such a fun book. Oh, and such a nice way to read, right?
Mhm.
This book is much deeper than I expected. Yes, I
Yes.
would agree with that absolutely. Hello, Chaos and Comics. It says a lot. The Lost Stars was in the first batch of new canon, and despite all that has come since, it's still thought of as one of the best.
I agree, Hayden. And eh, of all the fandoms I have, and there are a lot, I'm a nerd. All of us have a bunch of them. Star Wars is the one I least participate in because I have found it to be sometimes the most gatekeepy, hostile. Like there are Star Wars things I hate, not just dislike, I actually really hate them. But I'm not like going to tell someone about that. Like I would rush to tell you I loved this thing, but I'll never be like, I hate this. Let's talk, make it our personality for the
Yeah.
next 4 years. Um, but what's interesting about Lost Stars is there are very few Star Wars things that I do follow that have disliked it. And I follow a range. There are people who I follow who hate some of the stuff that I really love and vice versa. But Lost Stars, for the most part, works for just about everyone, even if it's just good or solid, solid for them to like it's their favorite. So I totally agree, Hayden. It's standing the test of time. And Claudia Gray's writing is great. Sometimes when they get writers for these IP, they sometimes aren't the best because they're not trying to pay someone a ton of money. And sometimes they're new writers that, still have time to grow. But Claudia Gray stands out because her writing is so good. She's taken all kinds of characters, all kinds of themes, action heavy, political heavy, more romance or drama heavy, and she knocks it out of the park just about every time. There's only been one Claudia Gray book that I was like less of a fan of, but I wouldn't say I even really hated that one or anything.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely want to read more from her now. And my dad really wants us to make a top 5 pizza places for
Sure.
next show. We could think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Not debating, I didn't see that romance in New Trilogy at all until that very first kiss.
I had nightmares about it, like it was going
I'm
to
the.
happen and I feared it.
I'm also not a fan of that.
I will say
Uh,
that was one of my favorite theater experiences because me and the girl, there was me, I wasn't in my city. I didn't go with friends. I was visiting my family. So I went by myself and I was sitting with this girl and I think I would assume it's her boyfriend. And we were like kind of all jammed together and she and I didn't interact at all. But when that happened, we both groaned audibly and said, "Oh no," exactly like that at the exact same time, never having met one another. And her boyfriend was like, "Shh." And I was like, "I'm glad we just had this universal experience."
That's
But
so
again, if
funny.
you love that, like, I'm really happy that happened for
I mean,
you. Like,
same, yeah,
totally,
but
yeah, yeah,
also not a fan.
yeah.
Yeah. I expected to bridge the gap between the original and new trilogies more since that was on the cover. So for me, it lost some points for that.
Mm. Yes, this is true. Yeah, I could see that. Because well, it'll be in spoilers, yeah. I'll come back to
Hmm.
that, Batmanda.
Did you read Aftermath?
I read the first one and I wasn't a huge fan. I've heard they get better. And I like it's Chuck Wendig, right? Is the author. I like some of his other stuff, so I may go back to it, but it's a series that just didn't really work for me initially. There were so many other books to read. So, Watery, if you think they get better, even if you liked that first one, I would be curious about that.
So let's do spoilers, huh?
The book report, full spoilers. Should we spoil Attack of the Clones?
I feel like, I mean, is there more to really say than kind of what we already
I don't
said?
know.
That's
That I did. I have my notes for that ripped out, and we really
okay.
didn't. I think the only thing I didn't really talk about because it was a little bit more specific to the book was something the Padme thing I didn't like. So like I said before, I think this is a good Padme book, Attack of the Clones. The I'm laughing at Cycle's comment, sorry. um eh, I think that the Padme scene where Anakin goes home to meet the fam, I hated it. I cringed. I hated it. And here's why, though. Here's why. Because they really set this up where Padme is like, instead of the natural conclusion that, like, oh, I can have a career and a husband, she's like, maybe I should give up my career for my husband and my family's right. And I'm
Yeah.
like, girl, what are we doing for this man?
Yeah. I'm with you.
Respectfully, I was also there mentally with you. I watched Canadian teen drama Higher Ground. I own it digitally. I love it. But like we no. And it was like
Yeah.
wild to me. It was like her sister was like, "Yeah, dude, you need to just focus on your man." And I was like, "Thanks. I hate it. I actually really hate
So,
this so much." Do you know what I'm
yeah.
talking
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a big yikes. It was a total big yikes. Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
So that one, yeah, and I'm trying to think. I do think one thing it did well, I guess this wasn't too much of a spoiler, I could have shared it before, is just I think the scenes they included in the book between or sorry, of Anakin talking to Padme about how Obi-Wan doesn't trust him, etc. They were a bit more nuanced in the book. Like in the movie, they feel very much to me like whiplash. Like
Hmm.
this is a
Like
bit dramatic. You're reading like a 5-year-old when you say things like this.
yes,
But in the book,
100%.
I actually think they felt a bit more natural because I don't know. It's just the pacing feels a bit more natural. Maybe it's, respectfully, Hayden, like it's less overacting. I can picture how the
Yeah.
lines are said in my head.
Yeah.
Um, so that I think worked better actually for me in the book than it did in the movie. But those were really the only things I didn't really want to say in the non-spoilery, just because they were pretty specific to things that happened in the book.
Yeah.
That was it.
No, I agree with both of those. Absolutely.
Um,
Like
yeah.
obviously Anakin still comes across whiny, but like there's more to it.
Mhm.
Like there's more that
Mhm.
kind of makes sense about it.
Yeah, and you can see it's hard. It's hard. I think you can see more of what Padme sees in him in the book, just because he comes across a bit more even tempered. Like you don't have to read the dialogue like Hayden delivers it. And I'm not
Mm.
trying to trash Hayden. Like it had to convey emotion. And I also know for a fact from the director's commentary, a lot of that was direction that was given. So I'm not like trashing him. I'm just saying like when you read it, you can put the inflections where you want them to be and how you want them to be a bit more natural. And so the scene in your head plays a bit more like, okay, I kind of see what you're seeing in him. And then he feels like he can trust you. So he's like sharing with you. And it just felt more natural.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, that was it. Did you have any Attack of the Clones spoilers?
No, not really. Not
All right,
really. I was
cool.
in for the ride.
In it for the ride. Well, let's
Yeah.
talk Lost Stars. Our
Yeah.
4.5-star read.
Yeah.
Batmanda's 4.5-star read.
As far as spoilers go, you had mentioned the journey to the what does it say on your cover?
It's like the road to the Force Awakens or Journey to Force Awakens. So at the end of this book, like when you're reading it, because remember the movie Force Awakens hadn't come out. So when I was reading it the
Mm.
first time, I thought, how will this intersect? Why is this the book that was written? And in my non-spoilery thoughts, I shared why I think actually they wrote it is to plant those seeds earlier on for what was to happen in the sequel trilogy. I mean, I could be wrong. It just feels that way in retrospect. The ship that has crashed at the end here on Jakku, home of Rey. Rey,
Mm.
who opens the movie scavenging that very ship.
Yeah, I
So
gotcha.
that is
Gotcha.
it. And so I saw the ship in the trailer, then in the movie, I was like, oh, I'm gonna know something that's gonna intersect with the movie. And it really didn't.
You're like,
That's
no.
it. She's just getting parts out of there. That's all. Um but I wasn't sure if you would have put the Jakku thing together when you got to the end or not, just because I didn't know what the last time you watched Force Awakens
It's
was.
been a while, yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely didn't. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that's not really a spoilery thought that I had, but I didn't want to say
Hmm.
it in case
Right, right.
people, yeah. But yeah, spoilery thoughts. You mentioned Nash and like you wanting a bit more, and I think I also mentioned it. So I just wondered if you wanted to share a bit more now that you can say kind of where his character goes, etc.
Yeah, so I mean, he watches his planet be destroyed by the Empire, and then he just sticks around the Empire and is like, "I was chill." Like, just
Mhm.
really, we don't get a lot of. I mean, obviously, it's got to be messing with him. It just felt like our main two characters felt that more than he did, or at least
Mhm.
what we got from him, right? Perhaps if we had a whole book in his head, it would be different,
Mhm.
right? So it felt like something that was like clear that this huge thing happened to this character that
Mhm.
like we get a lot from as far as like
Mhm.
he's interacting with our characters that we're following.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wanted something more from that too.
Yeah, I think it's hard to predict that response. I mean, what he verbally says, I mean, he's from Alderaan, he's a fellow Imperial cadet. And what he kind of says, two things. You see, leading up to it, he has a disdain for Leia because she's a rebel. And he thinks like she's besmirched really the name of Alderaan. So you see that and he's really proud of Alderaan. He talks a lot to Thane particularly about how much he loves his home planet and he wants to take Thane there, which really I think is why it also hits hard for Thane later on as well. Like he's been visualizing it. Thane who wants to get so far away from where he came from. And Thane's family, his father's abusive, physically and emotionally abusive, a drunk, not a good guy. And so he's hearing all these stories of this, planet. Um, but you know what Nash says is that it's for the long term. That this is that his planet is essentially a sacrifice for the greater galaxy, which I can understand logically, but I the only explanation I have is that it's so much, that he feels it so much that it has to be like funneled through a particular lens so he doesn't collapse. I
Sure.
also think there may be, based on his disdain for Leia, this thing where he's living out the best legacy of Alderaan, if that makes any sense. But it is really tricky, and I do think it sets Nash up, if they ever did a follow-up to this, to be a really interesting villain. I mean, the guy has nothing to
Mm-hmm.
lose and everything to gain.
True.
Um, which makes him quite dangerous. So I wanted more, but I also think it shows you how intense indoctrination can be and how people deal with grief in wildly different ways as well. But he's definitely like an interesting character to think and talk about 100%. And I also would love like a short story that's a moment in time for him from his perspective.
Yeah, and absolutely seeing him like turn into this great villain would be really cool.
Yeah, I would like it. I mean, there's long rumored been people always ask, will there be a follow-up to this? Because also it doesn't end in a really clear-cut way. In fact, there's like that
Mm-hmm.
last scene with Nash where you're like, it feels like a setup for a sequel. And she's never said no and she's never said yes. But as Hayden mentioned, it's still wildly popular. So I do think it's still definitely a possibility. I don't know at what point it would take place because when this book ends, Thane and Sienna are like kind of young adults. So I don't think they would jump to the Force Awakens time because then the main characters would be like much older, and I don't know if they'd want a YA novel, you know what I mean, where they
Mm-hmm.
were much older, or if maybe they would go adult. I'm not sure. But yeah, it definitely feels like there's a setup for a sequel.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But
Um,
yeah, as far as other spoilers, I don't know that I have any to talk about.
what did you think about the sides that they wind up choosing? Because as we said in the non-spoilery section, now we can say it out loud, like Thane does wind up first defecting from the Empire, and then eventually joining the rebellion, although it wasn't right away. He did sort of this
Mm-hmm.
middle mission thing with, I think, a really fun ship that he was on, that provided some stability for him at the time. I'm curious if you sort of predicted that that's where they would end up, or if you thought by the end of the novel, like where they would end up. I'm just curious what you originally thought the trajectory would be after that initial setup of them wanting to join the Empire.
I thought he could, because there were moments where he was really trying to get her to join the rebellion, like several, right, throughout their
Mhm.
life. And I thought maybe she would do it at some point, but
Mhm.
we obviously didn't end up there, right? So that was a bit of a bummer.
Mhm.
But I think, again, I think we could like have more. I want the end of that story that I don't think we
Yeah.
got here that I think could continue from there, right?
Mhm.
And this is, if this is it, then okay. It wasn't like
Mhm.
a bad ending, but
No.
I would obviously like to see her. join that side.
Mhm.
Um, and I loved, I have to say, I loved his little Wookiee found family. Was
Yes.
so lovely. Anytime she would come back,
Mhm.
she was like his Wookiee mom. Loved it.
Yeah.
Like, and we got the Wookiee sounds of the audiobook, so like every time I had a lot of feelings about it. But yeah, that was really cute. I love that.
Yeah, and I liked, we're always trying to get you to watch Rebels, and the initial
Hmm.
setup for Rebels, again, I won't spoil. I'm not going to spoil Rebels for anyone, but I will say when you first start following them, you're following this ship that is sometimes carrying out missions for the rebellion, but isn't necessarily full on in the rebellion from what you can see. And so they do some good, and then they also do some things just to make money that are kind of neutral. And that's sort of the vibe of that Wookiee ship, right? Like he doesn't join the rebellion right away, but he sees what the rebellion is doing through the eyes of these missions that they're going on, which I thought was cool, especially for somebody who is so cynical. And that's what I thought was so beautiful because I like to think I'm more of a realist pragmatist, and I think he is too, but they use the word cynical in the book, so I'm using the word cynical. But, early on, he's like talking politics as like a young kid, and he's just like, they're all terrible, which is like a
Yeah,
valid opinion.
fair.
um, but I kind of love that it takes someone who's cynical because they're questioning things in a time and a place
Mm,
that's full of propaganda. He's the one, his cynicism is what saves him from being fully indoctrinated and then open to seeing this other side. And I did like that it was his decision. It wasn't like he got thrown in with the rebellion. He makes that choice in a sense by seeing that possibility. And so I really liked Thane's trajectory, particularly, um, especially as someone who, yeah, started a bit more cynical. I think for me, I I remember reading this the first time and the trial with her mom. Sienna's mom
mm,
is put in an unjust trial and is going to be basically punished pretty much by death because she's going to do hard labor as an elderly woman, hard labor that's been outlawed for years. And it's totally corrupt. They don't have a trial at all. And that's the moment that mentally Sienna is like, okay, no, like I can't stand by this anymore. What's wild in that moment is when she does start to question, she opens up to her dad, who's been, by all accounts, a good dad compared to Thane's dad, who was absentee, abusive, etc. And the dad is like, no, like the empire thinks it's best, it's what's best. And so she's able in that moment to be snapped out of it, to see the indoctrination, and then at least mentally is no longer committed and kind
mm,
of spends the rest of the novel worried she'll be found out for being a mental defector. But I think what's interesting is, at the end, she essentially decides the only way out is death. She verbalizes in her head, like, I got nothing left. So I'm going to be the one who's going to just die in this mission. It'll be my last mission for the Empire, but it'll also be my last mission for the Empire. And there's something really tragic because when she's, spared and saved, like now it's much harder. She has to live up to what she's done, and that's really hard, and that's something, now I'm just gonna spoil a little bit of The Rise of Skywalker, so cover your ears for a second, but I think what would have been a more challenging ending is having Ben, who made that sacrifice, live up to what he's done. Like, it's not an easy out. I don't wanna make it seem like death is an easy out in that sense, but as a story, you're like, okay, like you shouldn't get all this glory for this thing that happened at the very end without having to make amends. This is my personal opinion, obviously. Um, and like that's what's going to be interesting and why I would like more of her story is like she's in such a difficult spot. You know what I mean? Like it's a really interesting story to how do you restore and live up to yourself personally after being a part of something like that once you snap out of it. And the truth is in the real world, a lot of people don't. Like you just reach a passive like the you get past the point of no return, right? And like to admit you're wrong would be to just totally lose yourself, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that even for a greater good. And I'm not, like, blaming Sienna, but I think it's a setup for a really interesting and nuanced story in that way. Sorry to preach a
absolutely.
bit about it, but I just think it's an
No,
interesting
no.
trajectory for them.
Yeah, and it really, like, the more we talk about it, I'm like, yeah, where's the sequel? Look, you're right. Where's the sequel?
Give
We
it
need
to
more,
us, Claudia.
please.
Yeah.
Um, real quick, Freddie says,
Yeah.
DM me all your hate.
I'll DM your hate. I'll DM my hate. Yes.
um, let's see. I couldn't make it through the first Aftermath, but I have the series and want to finish it
Mm.
eventually.
Yeah, it just didn't grab me. The characters didn't grab me.
For instance, I have a friend that just opens a Star Wars talks with me trashing Last Jedi or Book of Boba Fett, and it's frankly boring. The total dedicated haters claiming to be fans are so boring. Yeah, there's so many of those, right? Like for everything. I am impressed by the depth of your Star Wars knowledge, Jessica.
Oh, thank you. So a lot of catching up to do.
Let's see. I always think, wow, I hope they put this in the movies, and instead they do nothing.
It's so true.
Yeah. We miss Mara leaving, but bye, Mara, if you watch this later.
Bye, Mara. I love seeing the kitchen reno.
Oh,
Whatever like gloss you put on there or finish. I mean,
they're
call Ty
killing it.
Pennington, roll that bus away.
Honestly.
It's extreme home makeover.
Yeah, when I first saw the first kitchen photo, I was like, "Whoa, what are we doing here?" Like, it looks so
It
good.
looks so good. I'm
It
really
looks so
impressed. Yeah, I
good.
like following it.
Um, okay. There's a lot of pizza talk here.
Pizza is good.
And decaf talking, which I drink sometimes. Rebel Saw being that bad person in a good cause is what I thought you mentioned the opposite in this book.
I'm trying to
Well,
process that, Freddie.
yeah, I'm like, what? Well, Tunisia as a writer, again,
Mm,
Rebels does this brilliantly with a
yes.
few defectors, including one in a position of power.
Listen, if I could just mention 2 projects that don't get enough love, TV projects, in my opinion. They get love in different spaces. But yes, if you haven't watched Rebels, listen.
Here I
Season
am.
1 is still fun. Little found family rebel team, some Jedi stuff. It's fun. By the end of 1 into 2, you got one of the greatest Star Wars stories of all time. I mean, like, if you stick with it, like, don't message me in the middle of season 1 and be like, I'm not sure this is building anything. Holler back at me a couple episodes into season 2, and then we can have a real discussion. But it's great. And the other one that I actually really didn't love at the beginning, I know Freddie knows this because we talked about it a little bit on Twitter, but I love Andor. Oh my god! And talk about how bored I was the first 3 episodes of that the first time I watched it. But whoa, by the time you get to 4 forward, and then even rewatching 1 through 3, so much better. That is some nuanced storytelling, and that is some storytelling also where you see someone who is honestly not the greatest person, but making a ultimate sacrifice on the rebel side. It is so nuanced. That show is a political masterpiece when it comes to Star Wars, and I know so many people bailed, and I understand why before getting through the 4th episode and moving forward, but listen, with the strike going on, etc., if you're wanting to fill it with some other TV and going back and giving something a second try, Rebel or Andor is so good. So good. Yeah.
I need to watch all these things.
You do.
This is also for you
Oh, okay. Yes, yes, yes. Got you, got you.
because I don't understand it.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you loved it. Are there any
Yeah.
other non-spoilery thoughts, or Batmanda, if you're still around, if you have any spoilery thoughts you wanted to share?
I don't, but I do want to again make it clear. I do agree this is better than this. I need to
You
make it
need to make
clear.
it clear for the
This is
audience.
better than this. But I will say both audiobooks very well done.
If it
Both the Star
hasn't been
Wars
clear to
nurses.
listen, I don't think we've driven this point home enough.
Listen,
I
I'm
don't think
just
we've been
still
clear.
impressed. I'm so
Spell it out for the
impressed.
people.
Those Star Wars audiobooks, I'll never go back. What I hate though is my library does
Mm.
not have Revenge of the Sith on audio, and I'm very upset
Oh,
about it. So
it's really good.
I'm gonna have to buy it, I guess. I mean,
I think where I would recommend you go next, just personally,
hmm,
I think think you would enjoy Leia, Princess of Alderaan. I think you level
Okay.
up. I think not that they're better, not that that's better than this, obviously, but like I think you move into the water slowly and you go with another YA, another
Mm,
Claudia, a character you're familiar with. I think that's a good little spot for you. And then maybe pick an adult, like maybe even go to Bloodline and just stay in Leia's head with the same writer. And then you're
okay.
in the adult world. Like I think that is a good space for you. I think.
I love that idea, and I'm gonna check my library right now. So,
All right.
I don't think I can ever watch 1 and 2 again. Anyone that hasn't watched Andrew yet, just skip to 3. You won't miss anything.
You won't, but I did rewatch. I've since rewatched 1 and 2 twice, and they're better than I thought they were. But yeah, it's just a really I want to talk about like somebody should hire an actual nerd to do their marketing because I also want to say they gave ABC, you know, Disney obviously owns ABC, so they decided to promote Andor. I think it was 1 through 3, but it may have been 1 and 2. They played 1 and 2 on ABC to hook people when they knew from the internet's reaction, like even people who stuck with it said it took till episodes 3 and 4. And I was just like, you're just making it worse because now they're going to
That's
catch it
wild.
on TV and then see it on the app and they're going to be like, no. Yeah. Anyways,
All
let's talk
right,
about beach
update.
reads. Oh, they
Update.
have it.
I have downloaded the Leia book. Here we are. All right.
There's a couple moments in there I think you're really gonna text me about.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. Hey,
Um,
what are you reading? What's
I
going
was
on
gonna say
here?
segue. You're
Yeah,
about to be on the beach with Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
absolutely. That's something I will be reading.
Yes, this is our last beach read. So if you are in the
Oh,
chat, tell us what you're currently reading or what you hope to pull out this week. For those of you in the States, Labor Day is Monday. Maybe you got the day off. You're going to do some binge reading. Yeah, put it in the chat. And Kristen, why
yeah.
don't you start? Why don't you start
Okay.
today? What's your
Um,
got
the
going
big
on?
thing I think I want to start this weekend is well, I guess the weekend's kind of I'm still off. Is the new Junji Ito because I did pick it
All
up.
right. That cover scares
It is scary.
me.
Part of me wants to wait until October, but I'm like, no, it's already fall in my head, right? We've talked about
And
this.
in
It's
our
already
hearts.
in our hearts, in our heads. So
Yeah,
that is one that I'm looking forward to. And I
I love
did
that.
grab 3 books for the fall that in the spooky season.
Let's go.
One's more fall, one's spooky, or two
Mm.
spooky. But I want to reread these. These are actually books I've read, but it's the time. So I want to show those real quick. And of course, one is
Ah,
Pumpkinheads.
a classic.
Has to happen every fall. Pumpkinheads is so good. If you haven't read it yet, what are you waiting for? It is a delight. Just a true fall joy that must be reread every year for me. I do it every year now. So
It's a great one. And if Jessica could
great one.
find it used for a good price,
Oh,
Jessica would also have it out, but she doesn't.
I
It's great
waited and
though.
waited and finally found it at half price. So yeah,
I love
I
that
was
for
with you
you.
there.
I'm
Yeah.
on my quest now.
Cody and the Creepies is another one that
Oh,
Rita and I both really love. It is a highly, highly underrated Boom series. It's one and done. It's by Liz Prince, who did Tomboy. A lot of people may know of that memoir, which is great also. But Cody and the Creepies is so good. It is about
hmm.
there's a band, maybe there's a haunting, of course there is, and it's just so fun. The drummer's a ghost, essentially, right?
Oh,
That's
love
part of
it.
it. Yeah, so it's such a blast, and this is one that like I feel like no one ever talks about, but Reed and I, we both love it. So
Who
I
puts it
want to
out?
revisit it. Boom,
Oh, okay, boom.
boom puts it out. So if you do have access to Hoopla, it is on there.
Yeah,
And
for
it would,
those of you who
yeah,
have access to Hoopla,
yeah. So
congrats.
sorry.
I just need a text read. He already offered, and I just need to text him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Crossroads of Midnight, which is
Oh,
one of
so good.
I'm glad you loved it too. Like one of
Yeah.
my favorites. I feel like I'm making everyone read this. I'm just like, please read it. Like it's
Keep
so
doing
good.
it. Threaten them.
Yes,
Get
absolutely.
their home addresses.
Forever a fave. Love the cover, right?
Love it.
And it's just a great collection of some short comic stories by Abby Howard with beautiful black and white, sketchy art. They're all unique and creepy and just such a vibe. And this is another one that I just want to revisit every year, and I feel like I do now. So great for the season. If you haven't read it, you have to.
I completely agree, and I think it's very underrated. Oh, this is it. I was trying to remember. My library finally got The Last Halloween Volume 1 Children.
Yeah.
The other one. Have you read that?
Yes,
I
I read it. I also really liked it.
Okay. I saw it
Mhm.
the other day. They didn't have it when I first read that book based on your recommendation, I don't know, a year or 2 ago, and, um, I ordered it, and then it took forever for them to get it, but I just saw
Mm.
it actually the other day because they started putting out their fall ones, so
Yeah,
I'm also
definitely
excited to get into
read
it.
that, pick it up. I don't know when that second volume is coming out. I guess I gotta look that up. But yeah.
Oh, I forgot about this and I took them out. This isn't what I'm about to read. This is false advertisement. Don't take this as a beach read, but I did wanna mention with Lost Stars, there is a manga.
Oh yeah.
So if you aren't really just not gonna get into prose, totally fine, respect that. They do have a manga, over 3 volumes, they're all out. This is put out by Yen Press and Disney, Disney Lucasfilm. Now, I actually haven't read these despite owning them because I bought
Mm.
them when I was like, "I can try manga," and then I was just couldn't do it for a long time, but as you know, I'm in now.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
I dusted them off, and it's probably not gonna happen anytime immediately, but I also had wanted to reread Lost Stars before this, so it'll happen soon so I don't forget. I just kinda wanna compare, and I don't know if people are interested, but I will show just a little bit of, like, the characters. So, there's Thane, and then let me try to find one that's got Sienna. Here's Oh, we forgot, like, the Tarkin plays a huge role. Here they are when they're kids
Mm.
down there, and Tarkin is there to recruit them. So I can't speak to I don't know if anyone in the chat has read the manga, but hopefully I'll be able to give an update at some point about how it compares. But I took them out in case people were interested.
Yeah. Thank you for
Uh,
reminding me those exist.
yeah,
I know my library has them, so I'm definitely going to grab those.
yeah, I'd be curious what you think too, as someone who's read a lot more manga, how it comes out in the adaptation of the medium. Because I'm still learning like the ins and outs of the medium. I'm still pretty new, so I think you'd have better language for that. Yeah. Any other
Awesome.
beach reads you wanted to shout out?
I think that's all I got for now. I'm sure I will.
No Riley Sagers on deck right now?
You know what? I'm
Yeah,
down to
boy.
two. I'm down to two of my boy Riley Sager books
Yeah.
that I have not read. Um,
Which ones are they
one
again?
one being The House Across the Lake,
Right. Mhm.
and the other one is The Last Time She Lied,
The Last Time
Someone
I
Lied.
Lied.
Okay, I was like, I know you read it now.
I have
And the
trouble with the
reason
title too.
the reason I haven't read those is because I don't own those, and I've been reading all of his books via yeah, I think all of
Mhm.
them via audio. But I tried House Across the Lake back when it came out on
Mm.
audio. Couldn't get into it because the character sounded so much older than her age, so it was just super weird
I
to
hate
me.
that.
Yeah, so I was like, can't do it. And then the other one you told me had such a large cast that audio is
It was
probably not the best
confusing.
way. So I'm like, okay, so I guess I need to go get a physical copy for my library. But I
Yeah.
do want to get back into it because I'm so close to just reading his whole catalog, which I love.
Mm,
So
mm,
yeah,
mm. Well, I got a few. I like to cheat because I don't have a Thursday reading update. So I do like
yeah,
to shout out my recent reads that I really liked. And I do want to shout out 3 if it's okay. I'll try to be quick, but I
absolutely.
did gush about 2 of these. So hopefully I won't go on and on. I wanted to first and foremost thank Kristen for picking me up a copy of this. It's The Keeper, Soccer Me, and the Law That Changed Women's Lives, a graphic memoir by Kelsey Ervick. I'll try to be brief. You can see this is a mixed media graphic novel by the cover. You see there's kind of like some drawings, some actual photographs that they've put in. That's how the style is on the inside. And I told Kristen that you you definitely don't have to have a love for soccer or even sports to get a lot out of this, but I do really love soccer. So I was kind of excited, but I had some hesitancy because graphic memoirs are really hit and miss for me, mostly miss. Like 10% of the ones I read, I love. And then every other one, I'm like, I don't really like it at all. Like it's a pretty polarizing medium for me personally. And I don't have language for this. I've been struggling. And if someone in the chat has the language for this, I want to sound more educated than I am, which is this is part graphic memoir, but also just general graphic nonfiction about Title IX. If you're not in the US, Title IX is a law that basically was set in place to try to prevent discrimination, to access to education and other extracurricular activities, inclusive of sports, on the basis of sex. So Title IX made the way, especially for an increase in girls in sports, more girls teams or access to the boys teams for girls when they're younger, etc. And Kelsey is not a famous athlete. She's actually a writer. She's from Ohio, but James will love this. She now lives in Indiana and teaches in Indiana as well. But she is basically looking back on her life, growing up and playing soccer because she's got access to her old coach's videotapes. She grew up playing in the 80s, kind of right after Title IX had been in effect for a while. And it's really a story about her as a woman looking back at that time in her life, looking back at the impact Title IX had, even though she didn't know that that's kind of what was happening. You know, things like now she takes her kids to soccer, and a lot of the kids' moms played soccer. Whereas when she was playing soccer, none of the moms had the opportunity to do that, and how that changes things. Or looking back at a videotape where she just won her first championship, and they asked the girls on the team to try to guess which teammate's going to get married first and which one's going to have a baby first. And she thought, when I was younger, I thought that was kind of weird. And as an adult, I'm like, they would never ask the boys team that. But more importantly, she takes it a step further, not just saying they'd never really ask boys that, but also saying, like, those questions, like, I wonder if the questions that we ask kids help shape the answers in the future, like the trajectory of their lives, because in their mind, we've now put constraints on what they should expect or should look forward to. And so she does a lot of reimagining in her brain in the narrative, like, what if we asked which one of you will get your first professional goal, which one of you will make the Olympic team, etc. And it was just like a really good reflective memoir. Um, and it worked for me personally. Again, I don't think you have to have a love for sports. I think what especially worked well that I don't see a lot in nonfiction is in these nonfiction graphic novels, sometimes I feel like I get done with them and maybe I learned something, but I feel like it didn't add to my connection to the material. Like I read American Cult recently. I think that was what it was called.
Mhm.
And I Googled a bunch of cults. I have a lot of documentaries I didn't know about before. I'm really excited to get to those. But, you know, the art was fine, but I didn't feel emotionally connected. I got to the end and I thought, why did they write about this? Like, why did the author tell this story and or these stories? And I never really got a sense of that. Here I feel like there's so much connective tissue. I feel like it's got a lot of heart and also a lot of history. I really recommend taking a chance on it at your library, or I saw Book Outlet has this for $10 and it's Kristen's held it. It's a really well made trade. It's hardy, it's really good paper. So definitely don't see a lot of love for this, so did want to spotlight it a little bit.
Awesome. I
And
definitely want
thank
to
you,
read it now
Kristen.
that you've talked to more about it. Yeah, absolutely.
I would be so curious, like, how you felt about it as someone who reads a lot of graphic memoirs, but isn't really into sports at all. Like, I do think that'd be
Mhm.
a really interesting conversation. Um, in a little less gushing, it's still great, but I won't go on and on about it. I also just finished this week Our Hideous Progeny by C.E. McGill. You know, I'm obsessed with knowing where people are from. C.E. McGill is born in Scotland, raised in North Carolina, currently lives in Scotland.
Wow. What a
See?
life.
What a life, and I don't know why, but knowing that is interesting to me. I'm a big Frankenstein girly, if you're not aware. I like to read the spin-offs, um, like, what's it called? Like remakes or the inspired by, and this is one of the latest. This is a love letter to paleontology and science. It's a story of Victor Frankenstein's niece. She is living in the 1850s, lots of scientific discovery, also a lot of like spookiness going on, seances, etc. It's written in kind of a gothic style. I do wish was a bit darker than it actually is, but she starts the book having just lost her child, her first child, and society's looking at her a bit strange because that's the role of a woman, is to produce, but she is a scientist. And in fact, she was so excited when her current spouse in this book proposed because he saw her as an equal. He wanted to talk science with her. And after the death of her child, you really see it change their marriage. You see it change how he interacts with society and the way they're looking at them now that they're childless. You also see a fracture in their marriage. And so she embarks on a scientific experiment to find out more about what we now know as dinosaurs, what they're calling large lizards here, and try to reanimate one when she finds her uncle's diaries. And so it's a story about someone who feels like they failed, not being able to bring one life into the world and how to bring different life into the world. It's very subversive, it's really queer. It picks up on a lot of the themes of Frankenstein. Ultimately, I gave it like 4 stars, 4 out of 5. I think it could have been darker and it was a bit slower paced. But if you really love Frankenstein and you like to pick out other Frankenstein inspired stuff, this one's not getting a ton of hype, but I do think it's very solid, especially compared to some of the other Frankenstein inspired books that we've had. So that's Our Hideous Progeny. And then I just finished this morning, quick hype, Lucky Red. Kristen, I do want you to try to read this. This is
Ooh,
by Claudia
okay.
Cravens. Claudia Cravens is from New York City and lives in New York City.
Good to
This is
know.
Claudia Craven's debut. The other one was a debut too. This is a 300-page Western, adult
Oh,
fiction Western,
what are you
not my
reading?
normal genre. And it's an adult fiction book about a 16-year-old, which I think is really interesting
Hmm.
because, like sometimes you read YA and you're in the head of the YA and it's written from their perspective, but like having an adult write about a teenager from in an adult medium is just a different thing entirely. Um, I don't normally do westerns. This is short and sweet. It's got a little sluggish in the middle, but whoa, that last third act, wow. But this is about Bridget. She's from Arkansas. She's 16 years old. She was born unlucky. Her mom died in childbirth. Her dad is a drunk who makes mistakes. His mistake when they first open up the book is that essentially he's gambled away their house in exchange for 2 mules and a plot of land very far away. And then on the way to the plot of land to restart, he dies. So she's now orphaned in the American West as a
Wow.
girl, and ends up in this town called Dodge City, which is everything you think a Western is going to be. And it was so impressive how much brevity is used in this book, but you can like see, taste, hear, smell everything in this town. It feels very vivid. It does feel like you're in like an action Western. But she gets there, and the work she eventually stumbles upon is in a brothel or a whorehouse, as she would say. And it was so interesting to hear this author talk in a very neutral way about sex work, about the dangers of sex work, but also the ways that people get really smart about it, how the community looks after each other, the stability she finds in a brothel compared to what she had when she grew up. So interesting. And then that last act, as in all Westerns, a dangerous cast of characters, including a female outlaw who she develops a crush on, uh, takes the town by storm, and it ends in an action packed third act. It's a debut. It is easily one of my favorite books of the year. I just finished it this morning and I only just started it yesterday. I really, really loved this. Lucky Red by
Wow.
Claudia Cravens. Highly recommend it. I haven't done the audio, but I do know my library has the audio. Um, this was just stunning. I really, really like this. If you like Westerns, like give it a go. I think and if you don't like Westerns, I think this is the one to try out. It was
I've
great.
never read a Western in my life, but that does sound great. So, how long was that? How many pages is that? You said it
It
was
was
short and
like
sweet, which I love.
300. Let me see. I think it was less than 300. It's 288.
Okay, that's not bad. Hmm. All
I
right,
mean,
I'm gonna check my library. Yeah.
I would love to like get your thoughts as you go. I'm really excited to be this is the one I'll be forcing all my friends to
Wow.
read for sure. I
Okay.
really enjoyed it. Um I'm currently reading I picked up at Paradise, aka Second and Charles.
Oh yes.
Seconds. This is a reread. I have read Seconds before, but I went and visited Kristen, sold some books. This is one of the ones I picked up. I'd been wanting a physical copy for a while, and then that was the perfect time to get it. So I'll be rereading this. Um, and then I don't know if have you read any Kate Alice Marshall?
No, I don't think so.
So they have a pretty big back catalog, couple adult, but a lot of YA, and they're almost always spooky thrillers, many of which have queer characters, including this one. This one's a boarding school about a ghost that drowned and now haunts the halls of this boarding school. I'm 25% in, and I probably will finish this today. It's been a really great read, and I had never
Wow.
heard of this author, but then when I looked at their Goodreads, I was like, oh, they have quite a back catalog. I didn't look where they're from. The Pacific Northwest. Craze
Oh,
isn't here, but this is
there
your
you go.
neighbor, Kate Alice Marshall. Um, and I did have I had several Riley Sagers come in. I haven't actually started, but will be starting. They all came in at the same time, and I ultimately chose, I think is it Lock Every Door? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll be starting that
I
one
will be
soon.
so curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So a lot of beach reads for me.
Love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, other people in the chat are telling us what they're reading,
5
like
stars.
Watery's biology book. Good luck. Freddie says, I already read 2 Lazarus books. Kristen, that creepy relationship is less graphic than I imagined, still world gross, and does not continue. Okay, I'm glad
Yes,
to hear
Freddie.
that. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, I just wanna say this. Can I say something for a second? Because when we
Sure.
reread The Walking Dead, when I messaged you, not to bring us all back to that episode, but when I messaged you and was like, "I don't think the headspace I'm in and how awful some of these people are and the craziness that's happening, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to finish." A thought that I had, and I think I texted it or said it in a voice memo, was like, it was wild to me because I thought Kristen's also gonna have trouble because you just talked about that week, the Lazarus semi-incestual relationship, and I remembered that being a blip in that series and not like a main thing. And then what that is compared to what happens in The Walking Dead, I was like, I wonder how Kristen will feel finishing Compendium 1 Walking Dead and then looking back at her memory of Lazarus. So I am genuinely curious if you ever revisit it, like how much that plays a role for you today. Cause it
Well,
clearly
yeah,
stuck
I
out
mean,
for you, but it's such a blip for me.
yeah, at the time, and I didn't go beyond that, and that was like
Okay. Okay.
a while back. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And I
Okay.
love Greg Rucka, so like I
I
would try it again.
know.
Yeah, I would try it again. After Bumping Heads, maybe try Right On. That's one that I need to get back to. As in, I checked it out from the library, didn't read it, but I want to. So thanks for the reminder, Freddie. We'll have to get Coding the Creepies. Please do, Mark. I'd be
It looks good.
curious of your thoughts. Never read Crossroads of Midnight either. Mark,
Oh, Mark.
you must.
I think you'll like it.
You
Yeah,
must.
it was good.
It is a blast. Chris is reading the first 2 Wind books. So great. And Usagi Special Edition Book 2. That's
Wait,
exciting.
Chris, why just the first 2? Are you, like, rereading in anticipation of getting the 3rd soon? Because the 3rd's out
Mm,
now. I'm just
yeah,
curious.
I am
I
curious
haven't
too.
read the 3rd yet. I had
I,
every intention.
I also need to
It
read
didn't
it.
happen. Yeah.
Where are you getting your retrospective pizzas from? I don't watch us not even eat pizza that day.
I actually have an idea about it. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say where I'm gonna get mine, but I will tell
Okay.
people when it's happening.
Nice. Okay.
It's nostalgic for me.
Yeah. Let me know what you're doing. Maybe we can do the
Well,
same thing.
we got a plan for that show. We have ideas, but we need
Well,
to put them all together.
I know what we're doing for the show. I meant the
Yeah,
pizza.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. I think Mark is referencing the Indiana
Oh,
person.
great question, Mark, and I will message you once I remember because 'cause it'll take me a minute. I think I Googled it. I don't think it was in their biography or her biography. You don't have to wait for me. I will Google
Okay. Freddie also wants to know if you've read Dragon Hoops.
it. Oh, sorry, I found it. It's the English at Indiana University South Bend. Have I read Dragon Hoops, Freddie? It was my favorite book of whatever year I read it. Loved it.
So great. So great.
So good. And that's also how I think it's a possibility she'll this is very different because Dragon Hoops was narrative. This isn't really narrative. It's kind of stream of consciousness in a sense. Like it's just thoughts, not like a is that that's the right word?
Yeah.
Like that
That makes
Dragon
sense.
Hoops
Yeah.
is a narrative. It's a story.
Mm-hmm.
This is like a I don't know. Yeah, reflective memoir. I don't know. Cuz you can see there are moments they have dialogue with each other, but it's really
Mm-hmm.
just for the vibes, not for a narrative. I don't know. It's hard to
Gotcha.
describe without reading it.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
This one is for you.
Washington's Gay General Legends and Loves of Baron von Steuben. That's a lot of words, Mark. And I'm not going to write them all down, but I will come back to this and okay. Yeah, I'll look it up.
um, have you read Poor Things?
No. What's it about? What's your pitch?
Bringing back the Western words here. I
Let's
love that.
go.
Wait, let me get my Reese's
Hillbilly
Puffs.
Oink Oink and Western Howdy Partner.
It's great when you pick up a book and don't want to put it down until you finished it.
The best.
Yeah.
The
Got them
best.
from the library. I will read the third book
Okay.
at some point. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hope you enjoy it. All I heard from Jessica was Indiana is better at making
She's
books.
actually from Ohio.
Actually.
Actually, no, I mean, John Green lives in Indiana. He wrote a
Mm,
love letter to Indiana.
yeah.
I love Kristen.
I am from Indiana. It's true.
Exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, it is what it is. Wow,
Well,
we did it.
yeah, we did it. I have stuff that I want to go get from my library now,
We
including Lucky
found the
Red, which they
stars.
have.
What is it?
They have Lucky Red, just FYI. I'm
Yes.
gonna have to run there. Yeah, we found the lost stars.
We attacked the
Um,
clones.
we attacked the clones. Poor Things is an acclaimed book heavily inspired by Frankenstein. When I have to read it.
Oh, yes, I'll look
Oh,
this up. Heard one
Kervania.
minute.
Okay, yeah.
Listen to
Well,
our list just grew.
yeah. And
Oh,
do we want to tease what's? Yeah, go ahead, go for it.
we do, because
Yeah.
Jessica forgot when Jessica was gonna say it earlier. It's fine. I got my notebook in the other room. I just by episode 8, I've just taken a mental decline. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so next week, not 2 weeks from now, next week we'll be doing our finale show at 1 Eastern here on Kristen's show. We may
Yep,
be eating pizza. We'll tell you where the pizza's from.
that's
We've got a
right.
couple of little games. One of the games we would like your help with, please, please, please put in the chat or in the comments later a favorite 90s character. It could be across any medium. We're going to use those for a game we're going to play. We also realized, we're sad that I'm sad. I don't know. Kristen's
Yeah.
like, it's fine.
No, I'm sad. I'm sad.
Summer's coming to an end and we've been chatting, and I think we'll have a little something for the fall, and we'll tease a little more about that next week. So do join us live so you can hear more about those details. Kristen, do you have any shows coming up that you wanted to mention? You have a little bit of a change in schedule for this Thursday.
I do. So, yeah, Thursday, I'm not doing the reading update. I'm going out of town. So we will be back the week after. So I think my next show on this channel will be with you, the
Yeah.
next the pizza party. So yeah, we're gonna have a pizza party. We're gonna do some really fun things that I think a lot of you are going to like. If you're watching this later, please put your favorite 90s characters in the comments. We will be using those for something we're doing that I think you're really going to enjoy. We will also be showing more nostalgic things. I got more stuff from that attic, you guys. Are there more tins? Maybe. Are there more ticket stubs? Perhaps. Like there's things happening that I think will be really fun to go through, as well as, Scholastic Book Fair is a thing.
We're ready.
Maybe
We've
we
been
got some books.
all summer long. We have been planning for this, and it's
Absolutely.
been fun when I've gone to the bookstore to be like, "Ooh, what can I get for the finale show?"
Yeah.
And I've arranged, a nice little array. I'm kind of excited. Yeah.
Yeah. So you all should be too. So please join us next time. Same time next Sunday, this coming Sunday, I guess.
Same place, same old
Yeah,
faces.
that's right. And same old 90s sponsored. It's going to be great. We're going to be sponsored by
Awesome.
all the things. Thanks for joining us.
Have a good day.